Yes.
Ready?
Yeah, we tested this out. So people should be able to hear it. I see all of this.
We're gonna go ahead and get started, everybody. It's 11:30. We'll be recording.
We are recording.
Okay. So welcome to the October 2025 meeting. We're gonna begin with approval of the agenda.
Move to approve.
A second. Any discussion? All in favor?
New agenda.
Yeah.
Yes, sorry. Well, it's on this.
Oh,
No, for all of us. Really talk for all.
oh, you guys all, I didn't.
Well,
Yeah.
and get one.
Okay. All opposed? Okay, the motion passes. Approval of the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Do we have any discussion?
The minutes, apparently, your terrible secretary misspelling your name, and I will fix that.
Okay,
So with the correction on the previous minutes, I would move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second. Discussion on consent agenda. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes.
I'm gonna pass down the signature page.
We have quite a bit of correspondence today. So what we will do is Harry is graciously offered to read our correspondence.
Okay,
So
so
time.
perfect, here we go. There's quite a few messages that started yesterday. First one, from Sarah Penn, my work schedule does not allow me to attend board meetings in person, therefore I write in support of the decision to break all ties with the American Library Association. I point to my desire to uphold local control. Partnership with the ALA is anything but local control. From the ALA comes specific guidance and instruction on how to run our rural libraries. They do not share nor support Wyoming values. They seek to stymie parental involvement and instead look for ways to allow minors still access to questionable content. Our children are our most precious and valuable asset. Great harm is done when they encounter the rot promoting content that is encouraged by the ALA under the Freedom to Read banner. Its roots metastasize from the mind to the heart and corrupt our society at the expense of our youth. We are seeing its effects across the country. We must take a stand following the advice of the national lobby group. It's lazy and unacceptable. I ask you to support the effort to rid Fremont County of the ALA cancer. Thanks for your time and attention to this matter, Sarah. Next one. First of all, the ALA is more than one person. The former president of the ALA may have had personal beliefs that you object to, but she is no longer the president of the ALA. Sam Helmick is a current president that holds a master's of science in library and information science from the University of Illinois. The ALA is a professional organization that has been in existence since 1876. It's the oldest and largest library association in the world. And you would like to take that body of knowledge and experience away from our library system. Why? It has been stated during your discussions last month that our library system should dissociate from the ALA because of their stance on DEI, unisex bathrooms, preferred pronouns, etc. Where in our Fremont County library system have you seen evidence of those things? I am a 30-year patron of the Fremont County library system, and what I see is our library stands for and promotes my right to read and get information that I might seek. I also see that our library is nonpartisan and welcomes everyone, regardless of race, religion, political standing, sexual orientation, and whether or not they have a home. The ALA offers scholarships and awards, grants to libraries, critical reviews, books, professional development for staff and board members. They work with any library to promote literacy and reading, recommend policies relating to the promotion of literacy, and encourage discussion, activities, and programming to support those efforts. Please reconsider your desire to eliminate the ALA from your documents. To do so, you're acting in a political manner, which is no place in our libraries or our governing board. That was Terry Johnson. Next, I fully support Fremont County's membership in the ALA It is a vital lifeline for librarians to stay current and relevant. My expectation as a taxpayer and frequent library user is that the collections are well maintained and that services provided are high quality. ALA helps professionals stay committed to the central service mission of librarianship. That was Jack Smith. Good morning. Unfortunately, because the meeting is in Lander and I work in Riverton, I am unable to be present to share my thoughts with you at the meeting today. I fully support Fremont County's membership in the American Library Association. While I no longer work as a professional in that field, I was an ALA member for years. It is a vital lifeline for librarians to stay current and relevant. My expectation as a taxpayer and frequent library user is that the collections are well maintained and that services provided are high quality. ALA helps professionals stay committed to the central service mission of librarianship. As a library board member, your role is to support libraries in Fremont County. ALA membership is important support that cannot be replicated in any other way. Thank you, Corey Daly. Dear FCLS board, the FCLS library system needs to remain welcoming and accessible to all. It needs to provide resources for the needs of all of our county residents. It needs to provide cost-effective training for staff. Library staff need to connect with other professionals in the field to stay current. The FCLS should continue to take advantage of the financial assistance and professional training opportunities that are provided by the American Library Association. Why step away from this asset? To remove references to the ALA in the FCLS documents would be a regressive step grounded in fear and will to power. A brief visit to worldlibraryassociation.org reveals quite quickly that this is not a substitute for the ALA. It does not provide opportunities for training and networking for the librarians. Instead, WLA specifically, and this is not the Wyoming Library Association, this is the World Library Association, that's just my side. WLA specifically provides censorship tools used to challenge librarians and individual titles in the library's collections. Don't take us backwards, please show true leadership in this partisan hour. Step up, be bold, don't step away from intellectual freedom, don't step away from the ALA. Sincerely, Amy Anderson. Dear Fremont County Library Board members, I am writing in support for FCLS to continue their American Library Association membership. By continuing this membership, our libraries will continue to have access to national advocacy, professional training, grant opportunities, research resources, and a network that strengthens services for their communities. The American Library Association is a nonpartisan resource and is a national gold standard in library resources. I am a resident of Lander and I believe in our American freedoms, including in this is our right to read, learn, and think freely without censorship. Please continue FCLS membership with the American Library Association. Sincerely, Catherine Martin. I am a Lander resident, proud member of the community. I have lived in Lander for 5 years and I am building my life and family here. I love this place, the people, the community, and the amazing things Wyoming has to offer in terms of recreation and community values. As someone who values faith, family, and community, I believe our library should reflect the best of those principles. The American Library Association equips libraries to serve all families, offering tools to protect children, support literacy, and uphold ethical standards. Membership doesn't mean agreeing with every stance. It means ensuring our library has access to the best resources to serve our people wisely. Blessings, Stephen Miller. Next one. As a former librarian, started junior high school approximately 1974 to 1990. I'm aware of the ALA's continued and unbending politically motivated positions and recommended policies for libraries. These positions are one size fits all. These positions do not take into account local standards and community makeup. These positions recommend the same policies for 4-year-olds, for 34-year-olds, and for 74-year-olds. These positions do not differentiate between communities like Lander County in New York, New York, New York. It appears to me that there are few, if any, pieces of printed electronic material the ALA would say should not be put into the hands of children. When I served as a librarian, I recognized the ALA's unbending positions against selectively creating a collection which takes into account the community and the intended clientele and local standards. Upon seeing the ALA's perspective on issues in the 1970s and 1980s, I recognized their position was not the position of this community. It remains so today. I commend the current board in seeking to disassociate from the ALA. I hope you will vote also to eliminate the ALA's influence on the Fremont County libraries. Thank you for your service, Doug Duncan. Dear Library Board, I would like to urge you all to continue to support the policies and long and treasured association with the American Library Association. Public libraries are just that. Public libraries are open to all people regardless of race, creed, religion, or sexual orientation. Public libraries should remain free from regressive politics cloaked in religious dogmas such as Christian nationalist bigotry and anti-LGBTQ prejudice. Additionally, I hear talk about closing libraries in selected communities. I would like you to consider the wisdom of the award-winning American author Lisa Wingate. A town without a library is no town at all. This is so true. Libraries are the focal point of communities. They provide the heartbeat of community events, knowledge, and public discourse. How anyone having the sacred duty of being on a library board how anyone having the sacred duty of being on a library board could seriously consider decommissioning libraries should be looked upon as an egregious dereliction of their duties. Thank you, Ron Smith. Dear FCLS board, I vehemently oppose the idea of the FCLS leaving the American Library Association and will quickly list several reasons for your consideration. One, the ALA is the oldest and most well-respected institution supporting public libraries with the United States. It has spent decades cultivating resources, training, and legal support for the First Amendment, library staff, and library patrons. It is the gold standard. Two, the national interest in divesting from the ALA is a politically guided decision, not a local and non-partisan issue. Libraries are non-partisan organizations, not to be tied to any one political party over the other. The Trump administration has openly attacked the ALA as being woke or not conservative enough, which inherently invalidates the argument. The ALA is not woke simply because it has leadership who identify as LGBTQ, nor is it woke because it promotes free and fair access to information. Any claims of political bias on the part of the ALA are pure propaganda and are untrue. Three, assuming that the next step would be to join the World Library Association, it must be noted that the WLA is not an acceptable substitute for the ALA for several reasons. It clearly is a biased organization seeking to allow patrons to control what is available to the entire community based on a misguided concept of morality over law. The First Amendment and the right to access libraries freely are not limited by one's religious beliefs or moral outrage over content one is uncomfortable with. It is not for an association to determine what the public can read, but up to the public to choose the books that they check out on their own. Secondly, it is inappropriate conflict of interest for this board to choose to become members of the WLA because two sitting board members, close association. Marta Mossberg's participation in the WLA should make her ineligible for voting on this topic, and the presence of her husband on this board, which, while highly problematic and unethical on its own, should preclude him from voting on the issue as well. When you signed on the board to be a member of the Fremont County Library System, you agreed that you would not benefit in any way from this position, nor would you have any conflict of interest that would lead to any perceived improprieties, and voting to terminate the ALA membership is a clear conflict. Finally, I call for the immediate resignation of Marta Mossberg from either the Fremont County Library Board or the World Library Association, as her involvement in both is clear and direct violation of the bylaws of this board. For Article 3, section, in order to avoid any conflict of interest, actual or perceived, the library board members are required to suspend their involvement meaning board membership and voting rights, with all formal library support groups during their terms in office. The library board must remember that at all times you represent the entire community of Fremont County, not just the ones that share your political and religious leanings. It is the responsibility of parents to monitor what print materials their children can access, as I suspect is the reason for this proposal to separate from the ALA, and not the responsibility of the public library system. I hope you will recognize the laws surrounding the right to access.
And the single second?
That was Sarah Ryder. Please vote to keep, dear Board of Directors, please vote to keep our Lander Library Association with the American Library Association. I do not want a MAGA tainted group anywhere near our wonderful quality library that does so much good for so many local and visiting people. MAGA tainted organizations talk freedoms out of one side of their mouths and then work to dilute our freedoms. They want everyone to live the same narrow-minded, bigoted lifestyle. Please protect the Lander Library that a majority of our town citizens respects and values, and from a MAGA-minded minority. Sincerely, a local public school teacher who never hesitates to bring her kids to our wonderful public library when they lights. Hello, Fremont County Library Board members. As a Lander resident and homeowner, I am writing today to dissuade you from removing the ties that the Fremont County Library System has with the American Library Association and keep funding the Du Bois and Riverton libraries indefinitely. I love our library. I regularly attend events, host at the library, check out books both physically and digitally, and use the computer lab. Looking at the FCLS list of strategic priorities, both the acts of abandoning the ALA and closing the Du Bois and Riverton libraries seem directly counter to the priorities of the library system. Libraries are community spaces, one of the very few places that are free and open to all members of the public for use. The grants and deep network available in the ALA provide the FCLS with the opportunity to expand library access and develop or maintain services at the library, and should not be tossed away in favor of an organization that has none of these opportunities available. These grants could be used to grow the general fund revenue streams, a key goal of the strategic priorities document. Closing branches of the library should not be considered valid options in order to cut costs when other options of revenue exist. Our association with the ALA provides us with professional training, grant opportunities, and a network of support that is essential for the library to run well. The libraries in Du Bois and Riverton are essential community resources that should not be closed. Thank you for reading. Stephen Snell. Dear library board members, each and all, your vote to remain in the ALA is my request, and as a tax-paying, thriving library user and patron, and confident in the consistent inquiry and reliability of the ALA. I'm writing to express my support for our library's membership in the American Library Association. This organization advocates for librarians and libraries, and more importantly, works to protect free speech. JPM. From Hart and Josie Jacobson, we both agree that the Fremont County Libraries stay with the American Library Association, ensuring the right of all citizens to read what they choose. Thank you. I write today to voice my fervent opposition to the Fremont County Library System leaving the ALA. The entire board took an oath to protect access to libraries for all Fremont County residents. This means unbiased and inclusive materials are to remain in the library. Some of the members are already violating their oath and mandate to the residents of this county. This attempt to remove FCLS from the ALA violates this oath. The ALA has been a critical support to the FCLS for many, many years. In fact, the ALA Bill of Rights supports everything your oath requires you to do as stewards of our library system. The library should never be a pawn for politics. The ALA has been in service of American libraries since the 1880s and provides support and guidance for all its members. There's absolutely no reason to leave this American institution for a substandard and biased WLA. Our library is a Carnegie library. It was started in good faith to provide all people with access to learning materials to fulfill their personal needs, whatever that may be. In fact, here are Carnegie's principles. Andrew Carnegie's visions and goals. 1, democratization of knowledge. Carnegie believed that free speech, free public access to information was a powerful tool for social and individual advancement, allowing even the working class to educate themselves and rise in society. Meritocracy. His funding supported the idea that individuals could achieve success based on their own merit and hard work, with libraries providing the essential resources to make this possible. Community institutions. Carnegie envisioned libraries as fundamental parts of civic life comparable to public schools, and insisted that communities maintain them with local funding to ensure their continued public service. Key principles of Carnegie libraries: free access to information. Essential principle is providing physical and intellectual access to books and information, ensuring these resources were available to everyone in the community. Lifelong learning. The libraries were designed to support education and personal growth at all stages of life. Community engagement. Modern Carnegie libraries often aim to build stronger communities by serving as places for congregation, education, and connection. Please do not leave the ALA. Fremont County citizens do not want this move. Thank you, Cindy Zacks. Last one. Dear Fremont County Library Board members, I hope this message finds you well. I'm writing in regarding our library system's membership in the American Library Association. As you know, questions around the value of this membership have been raised in various communities, and I believe it is important for us to take a careful and representative look at what membership means for Fremont County. I respectfully urge the board to conduct a clear quantitative assessment of the cost versus benefits of the ALA membership. Specifically, I encourage you to examine potential gains from canceling membership, immediate cost savings on dues and related expenses, ability to reallocate funds towards local or state level initiatives more directly relevant to our communities, potential losses from canceling membership, reduce access to grants, training, and professional development resources, loss of national advocacy support and legal technical guidance in times of challenge, potential reputational or professional drawbacks if the library is no longer aligned with the largest national library association. This discussion does not need to be framed as a matter of political affiliation. Rather, it should be treated as a straightforward cost benefit and risk analysis. What tangible and intangible assets are gained by remaining members, and what do we risk by withdrawing? Based on the information available, my recommendation is that the Fremont County maintain ALA membership at this time. The advocacy resources, professional development opportunities, and access to funding streams appear to outweigh the direct cost of dues, especially for a rural system that benefits from outside connections and support. That said, I recognize that each board member brings valuable perspective to this question, and ultimately the decision rests in your capable hands. Thank you for taking the time to weigh this matter carefully. I trust in your judgment and commitment to the best interests of the Fremont County Libraries and the communities they serve. With respect and gratitude, Ryan Novak.
So those were the correspondence up until the last person sent their email, so that might not be all, but that's all we have right now.
Sure. I just wanted to clarify, because it seemed like a lot of people who had written didn't understand the motion. It was not to disaffiliate the library system from the American Library Association. It was to remove references in our board handbook and bylaws and policies and procedures. Individual librarians are free to have an ALA membership. They're free to do training with the ALA. There is no formal relationship between the Fremont County Library System and the American Library Association. So I just wanted to clarify that before public comment, because it seems that many people didn't understand what the motion actually was.
Okay,
But we do need to clarify anything that was the ALA and access.
and we do have this on the agenda
Yeah, it's on the agenda.
as well, so maybe that's more appropriate
Perfect.
time, right? Okay, so moving into public comment, 3 minutes. Try to take turns, there is a ton of people here, so I'll try to call on you in the order I see you. So,
And can you, for the student secretary, can you state your name and what town you're from? Thank you.
My name is Linda Bebout. I'm not related to Senator Eli Bebout, and I'm from Riverton. And it's nice to see your faces instead of having to talk to your backs. I think the board members need to know a little bit about those of us who choose to speak. I served on the CWC Board of Trustees for 10 years, elected by the public. I served as a member of the board of the North Central Association of Higher Education, the accrediting agency for institutes of higher education in the Midwest. And I served 3 non-consecutive terms on the Fremont County Library Board, all while managing a medical practice. Pertinent to today, I served as treasurer of the Friends of the Library from the Riverton Library from 2016 to 2022. During that time, I was in the Riverton Library at least once a week, usually carrying a bank bag in my hand, and collected money inside the library from various locations, including the donation box in the library. Now, I'm an 80-something-year-old lady, 5 foot 1 inches tall, pretty defenseless. Never was I threatened or made to feel unsafe by any of the people gathered in the library, in the entrance to the library, or in the parking lot. The biggest threat to library patrons right now is this board and the county commissioners who appointed this board. Thank you.
I'm Maggie Miller. I have raised my family here, and I have daughters who would call this library their second home if they were here to talk to you today. One is halfway through med school, the other one just started an EMT job in Washington DC and is applying to med school. And they would credit the library with a lot of that. There's a lot going on. I know that we're talking about the American Library issue, and that's later on the agenda today. It appears to me that the correspondence is overwhelmingly in favor of keeping the connection. My understanding is that it doesn't control libraries, it's merely a resource, kind of like a buffet. Go take what you want in a cafeteria. My concern here today, because we live in a time with so much vitriol and so much hatred and so much division. I mean, I don't have a lot of power over the fact that Trump is killing people in boats off of Venezuela who have no due process, and that children's cancer funds for research have been reduced. I have no power over any of that. The only power I have is to come here to the library and say, don't mess with the library. We have all kinds of political differences. Yesterday, I was on Facebook, and I'm not even friends with Karen Wetzel, and I saw a post where she was reposting the video that Trump created about Hakeem Jeffries and Schumer, and they're dancing around a racist, horrible video. And then she was upset because admin hadn't taken it down from some side or other. I don't know. We're not gonna resolve this. What can we do? We can look at the law. I'm a lawyer, so I look at the law. And the law, the bylaws here, as Sarah Riley referenced, say, library, let's see, I gotta make this bigger. This is important. Library board members are appointed to act in the interest of the entire Fremont County library system. In order to avoid any conflict of interest, actual or perceived, it goes on. So we're supposed to be concerned about conflicts of interest, either actual or perceived. It goes on, actual or perceived, let me find this. It basically says that Marta Mossberg cannot be a member of the WLA. And also, if you're talking about actually perceived conflicts of interest, David Mossberg and Marta Mossberg can't both be on the board. I don't know how to rectify this, but I think that with regard to voting on this particular issue or any issue of censorship or anything that comes from the World Library Association, I don't think either of you can vote. It would leave Karen, who's posting these things on Facebook, and Kristen McClellan, who I don't know, Terry Cook to vote. It's not a quorum. So I think you can't even vote on this unless they, but my concerns are big about conflict of interest. Sorry, Mike Jones, you know I like you very well. Hope I hope a nice vacation. All life is good. It's on you to make sure that county commissioners are people in place here who serve our library and our community, and you have the power to put county commissioners to remove people.
Okay, that's it.
My name is Karen King. Most people call me KK. I live at Fort Washington and 50 years. I was elected board member for 8 years. And I ran several programs for Fort Washington School for nearly 40 years. It's amazing to see that nobody from my community seems to be from there. I guess I'm not shocked when the library board, particular to this issue, seems to be proposing a decline of diversity, equity, and inclusion. What happens to the equality state? How does that jive if we are to maintain our motto of equality state? I just came to share that. It seems to me that many people in my community need this library for computer access. They don't have it in their homes, and the library at Fort Washington has limited hours. So I beg all of you, bring diversity to the table. The library, we used to have children's theater in here. All sorts of kids came from around the community. It was not an exclusive group. It seems to me that many on this board are taking very exclusive positions, contrary to the requirement of being responsible for all people. Learning. Isn't a library a real foundation of diversity? Are you going to start kicking out authors that aren't MAGAs? Where does it stop? Thank you for your attention.
Yeah, all right.
My name's Marjorie Ravasio and I am from Riverton. And I have been a Friends member for 20 years. I've been a sub at that library. I'm a volunteer for the library also, and I'm there probably 10 to 40 hours a week at least, especially if we're getting ready for like our yard sale that's coming up to raise money to help the library. But what I'd like to address are a couple of things. Our library and all the libraries, as this woman just said, are important for the computers. Very important for the computers, and there's not tracking at the Riverton Library showing how many people use it, but a lot of people use them. And they'll go ahead and they'll put them for jobs, and a lot of times they'll get these jobs, and then they'll come and say, hey, I got the job, and thanks for your help with the resume. And the staff is elated. And do you know what that brings to the community? It brings more tax dollars. It brings less drain on social services. It brings better citizens. Their children then are more empowered to come and use the library, which also raises them up to be beneficial to our community. So that aspect is very important. And of course, on the reservation, there are a lot of dead zones, so they need the computers. Then you want to talk about tracking. Okay, if you track the numbers of the computers, personnel, that'd be great. But if you also track the number of items that they take out that are not checked out, but are on the shelf as honor books in the children's, the adults, and the teen departments. That's massive, and they have even expanded it in Riverton to where we take a lot of paperbacks and put them on the shelf, and people can borrow them because they're going to be gone more than a month and they want to take it with them and they don't have an overdue fee. That is utilized tremendously because I help them get the books for there and help them also to put them away. That's massive, that's utilization of our library. And the last thing I'd like to address is having been there for 20 years and doing night programs and things like that. There's no safety issue that I see at Riverton Branch. I can come at 8 in the morning if for some reason I'm doing a special project, the staff are there and I'm allowed to go in and do a special project. Or I can leave when the program's over at 7 at night. Used to be 9 o'clock at night. I used to go home when I stopped at 9 o'clock at night. I have never felt unsafe. And if you think there's a problem with our homeless population, please get to know our homeless population. I also volunteer at the food bank. Some of the nicest people you're gonna meet are the homeless of Riverton. On any given day, they will say, please, thank you, and how you doing, and care about you. Thank you.
Yes. I'm Barbara Oakley, I'm from Lander. My experience is a little more homespun. I worked in this building for 37 years. And so I saw a lot of directors come and go. And within my 37 years here, I was never told that I had to follow any. The last 15 years, I should say, I was the manager. But I was never told that I had to follow any ALA rulings. It seems like maybe some of you think that the librarians in Wyoming, I can definitely speak to Fremont County, are walking in lockstep with ALA. And that we take everything that ALA says and we try to implement it. We do not. We're Wyomingites. We have more sense of our own freedom. And it seems that you have confused our response to ALA to your response to this new World Library Association, where you appear to be in lockstep and you appear to not be listening to the public that the library board is supposed to represent. In fact, I've been to several meetings that were involved with how do we get along these contentious times. And one of the things is that people get revolting when they feel unseen or disrespected. And I think that's what's happening to our public now. You're hearing from us and we're being disrespected. And I include that with the county commissioner, Mr. Jones. We aren't being heard. Your group seems to be empowered, and I can't figure out why that's important to you when the libraries function very well and always have. And the main thing that I might get from ALA was freedom to read and access to all people within the county. And boy, I have never seen either of those standards taken away from me or any of my people that have been involved with. And I don't know, I look around the crowd and I would like to see hands of all those who are opposed to having this library leave ALA. There's your public, thank you.
What? For Grace Ledger? You want any public comment? Or you still have your hand up from?
Oh, I just.
Oh, okay. Other public comment?
We have,
Striped shirt?
We do have someone on Zoom. also.
Oh, okay. We'll go here and then, do you wanna go Zoom after that?
Sure.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, in the striped shirt.
Okay, hi, I'm Julie LaFever, Lander. Let's see if we can get my spiel here. I was very concerned when I read that you had voted in September to disaffiliate from the ALA, because on the agenda for that meeting, it was only stated as a discussion. And I felt like this was a drastic move with no warning. I'm relieved that a public comment period was legally required. Thank you for allowing us to react to your decision. Particularly troubling was Marta Mossberg, board members, citing the executive order of President Trump to quote, hold accountable any accrediting agencies that require, quote, institutions seeking accreditation to engage in unlawful discrimination in accreditation related activity under the guise of diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. As Ms. Markle has noted, the ALA does not require our library system to do anything, nor does it accredit us. It does hold up the ideal of libraries as equitable, diverse, and inclusive spaces. One objection raised was that the ALA supports patrons using the restroom of their choice. If our libraries require patrons to use the restroom matching their gender assigned at birth, who will be responsible for peeking in the underwear of the before granting them access to the proper restroom? Or do we just target people who look suspicious, who dress funny, or don't conform to our standards? Who's going to decide that? To abandon the resources of affiliation with the ALA, which has been a respected resource for American libraries since its founding in 1876, more thought and discussion should be required. Political controversies will come and go, but the future of our library system shouldn't be determined by short-term political moves. Board member Martin Mossberg suggested our library system instead affiliate with the World Library Association, of which she is a team member. I tried to find out more about this association, and while there's plenty on its website about, quote, a new day for libraries, there's no information on when this association was founded, nor any listing credentials for its board members. In fact, its 501c3 status is pending, which suggests that it's newly founded. The very concept of a new day for libraries is frightening to me, because in the old days, up until today, libraries have always been a source of strength, a haven for those seeking knowledge and understanding, and a meeting place of ideas vital to an informed democracy. I'm afraid that new day will be a stunted, narrow collection housed in an unwelcoming building with thought monitors looking over readers' shoulders, if not peeking at their private parts. Thank you.
You wanna go to Zoom?
okay, so we have Casey Sedlock.
Yes, hello. My name is Casey Sedlock. I live in Crowheart. My children attend school in Du Bois, and I'm speaking on two issues. One is removing the or distancing the library system in Fremont County from ALA guidelines and practices. I see the reasons for that for local control. It aligns very well with Wyoming's general stance about, you know, freedom at all costs. It really is aligned with that idea, and it detracts from the ability to train the sorry, I have my notes, one second. The ability, there are operational challenges for staff that will face, loss of professional resources. The access to intellectual freedoms could be impacted, and there is a potential cost for grant access and funding opportunities. There's also one thing that I'm concerned about is the policy creation that we need to go through as a community to redefine how we approach the library. and the impacts that that will have on librarians. Secondly, so my vote is to remain aligned with the ALA. Secondly, you may remember last year I did a lot of, you might have heard my name come up in discussions about childcare, particularly in Fremont County. I did a lot of work through the state to legislate for more access to childcare, and I think that libraries are an inherent part of this. My children they go to the library probably 2 or 3 times a month during the times that it's open in Du Bois. We went yesterday, we're going today. They are thrilled to be there. They have social connections there. They have educational opportunities there. They get to play with Legos, not that they can't do that at home, but it's a huge selling point for them. And we leave with stacks of books that we otherwise would have to drive a significant distance to obtain. And these are just bedtime books that I read as a child, The Mystery of Chincoteague, Tom Sawyer, books that are near and dear to our country's history also. And so the idea of Du Bois closing its public library is gutting to me. It is something that is foundational for my family. I know it's foundational for many other families in our community. People who homeschool find community there. People who are stay-at-home mothers find community with other mothers in this environment. It is an absolute resource for us, and the closure of it would be a huge detriment to our community. We're already incredibly rural. We're already incredibly isolated, which we all love. But the library is a place that we get to come together, to find joy in one another, to learn together, to create together, to teach our children about how to look for a book. I don't want to wait. Okay, thank you.
Way in the back. Yeah. Go ahead.
So I've read through some of the American Library. Your name and your
Location.
Okay, I'm Joan Jones from Leonard, Wyoming. I've read through some of the American Library Association's intellectual freedom manual and found it quite disturbing. The goal seems to be the destruction of our republic. And yes, we are a republic and not a democracy. However,
Politely.
However, we have many enemies within who have been leading us down the soul-destroying road of socialism. The best way to destroy our country is to destroy the morals of our people, and especially our young people. We are bombarded with filth everywhere. Do our tax-funded public libraries need to add to their self-destruction? The ALA is attacking our children by making sure they have access to trash, which doesn't qualify as true literature. It's definitely nothing that will strengthen our civilization. Their goal appears to be dumbing down and perverting the youth of our nation. Here's a quote from the manual, quote, "Libraries are often pressured to move age-appropriate but controversial materials from the children's and teen sections to parenting collections, where they may not be discovered or browsed by the young person who are the intended audience," end quote. Yes, the library needs to make sure that the intended victims are reached. From what I have observed in the last few years, our library follows the ALA guidelines with exactness. Sexual abuse of children is rampant. Why? Because of the filth that's pervading our society. The American Library Association, which definitely has a progressive political agenda, works against us, seeking to pervert the youth of our nation. I would be very much in favor of completely cutting ties with them. Thanks.
I mean, it's their fault. I live outside Atlanta. I'm not as articulate as many of these people, and I'm not going to be fierce or I'll try not to be political about it. I have one thing, but to me, it's the environment and community of a library. my mother's office. I'm old. And how when I was little, great grandma started reading to me. Daddy read to me. Mom was usually a little busy, but she would also read. And then the older sisters, I was the baby, they read to me. And it was like all this new world. And nobody checked to see what they were reading to me. You know, certainly none of them brought out a Playboy. It was just the love of different kinds of fiction and then sometimes it's nonfiction. And so to me, when I was old enough that I could read, I'm sorry, I compared some of this. I got to go to the library with my mom and I would check out several books. And it was like, I could check them out on her card. It was wonderful. And then at a certain age, then I don't know if I was 10 or 12, but I wasn't just a kid. I could check out 10 books. 10 books in my old card. And was I later turning? So there was obligation, there was responsibility, there was treasuring the stories. And as far as I look at it, it's added education. You know, I don't know how many folks here are trying to get their GEDs and they use the library because I am to get my GED. Or folks that are, I'm taking the summer off and I'm not going to think about college. Just can't help themselves, keeping track of things. And I'm sorry, I don't need to go on, but it's the emotion and the environment and the shelter, the gathering place of a library, besides all this political malarkey that's driving me nuts. And it's just too precious. When I was a kid, a long time ago, there was no internet. There was something better. Thank you.
We have one more person on Zoom too.
Okay, red shirt jacket.
Okay. My name is Margaret Sawyer, and I live in Lander. Alright. And I'm kind of bad living here, but I also appreciate the library and I want to support the ALA. There are so many ways that children and adults can get smut from the internet, from movies. And to me, the library is a place where you can avoid that. I look for books on a weekly basis because I'm a reader, a Rotary reader at the grade school. And I've never found yet an inappropriate book in the children's section. I browse the shelves all the time. I'm using Libby a lot. I have never found an inappropriate book. Guess I'm not looking in the right place. I don't know, you know, and I've used libraries all my life. And I just, to me, libraries are a place where you can go to find safety, because you can avoid that stuff. Because most everything in the library is safe. Contrarily, the website for the World Library Association, number one, plagiarized a bunch of the Campbell County Library's information. It had quotes directly from the Campbell County Library policies. And it goes into just explicit detail about sex. There's a whole section, policy for protection children from harmful sexually explicit materials in areas designated for minors. Once again, I haven't seen any of these. But then the text goes into more detail about what is inappropriate, using words like penis and genitalia and finger and bestiality and sadomasochistic abuse. I mean, by the time I was done learning about this WLA, I was embarrassed. I think this organization, which doesn't even have its 501c3 status yet, it's not even really a full-on organization. I think they're just a little too hung up on sex. And I don't think that this is a safe organization for us to be looking at. And I realize that right now we're talking about divesting to some level from the ALA, but I also understand there's undercurrent of switching to the World Library Association.
I don't trust those cards. It's a fringe group and it's creepy. Thank you.
I don't know which one of you is first, but when we have one on Zoom.
One on Zoom.
Go ahead and do Zoom, I guess.
So Vicky Lynn, Frank, you'll unmute.
I am, thank you. My name is Vicky Lynn Frank and I live in rural Lander. A little bit of my history, 30 years ago, people talked about closing the library in Riverton and DuBois. And at that time, my father was the chairman of the library board and he served terms. And him and my mother also served with the Friends of the Library. The difference then is that the library board was against closing the DuBois and Riverton libraries, and they fought the county commissioners and won. So that's one thing. I think 4 of you are kind of, let's close these other libraries and just keep the one we have to. And I want to be clear that that's not okay. We need to support all the libraries. Number 2, when you say that this board should be non-religious, because religion is not in the Constitution and it's not in our First Amendment right, and libraries are supposed to support our First Amendment right, which is freedom of speech, freedom of religion, which also means freedom from religion. I will say that candidate Wetzel, when she interviewed, brought up the alleged religion of another interviewee, using it to bias the county commissioners, also using that the aforementioned interviewee was an LGBTQ plus ally, hoping to bias the county commissioners against putting that person on the board. Instead of shutting that down, Mr. Jones, the county commissioners allowed it, should have disqualified Ms. Wetzel from even interviewing, but allowed her to continue to interview and then rewarded that behavior by naming her to the board. That is unacceptable. We should stay with the ALA because we have First Amendment rights. Your rights stop where my rights start. You don't have a right to tell my child what they can read in a library. I do, not you. And your religion, and you're not the morality police, you're a library board. You need to protect our First Amendment rights. That is what you're responsible for doing. Thank you.
No, you prefer.
Yeah. Hi, thanks. Amy Anderson, I'm from Lander. I have been, an employee of the Lander Library in the Children's Department. I have been a friend of the Lander Library since I showed up in 1989 to Lander. I've been on leadership teams for the Lander Library, friends. Fear. Fear is what brings us here today. Fear of words. Fear of ideas. Fear of people that are different than us. Fear of people that look different, that hold different opinions. And I, for one, another hat I wear is to lead a board of 8 people to grant funds to organizations in Minnesota and in Wyoming, specifically here in Fremont County. I've done that for 20 years. And what I've learned from that experience is that the board's job is more than anything to keep the organization out of legal trouble, out of financial trouble, to guide the policies and procedures. And more important than anything I've learned about being a board member is setting a tone. You guys are in charge of setting the tone for the organization that then the administration follows, that affects the whole culture of the institution and the people that visit it. Right now, I am not feeling great about the tone and the direction, and I appreciate Marty's distinction between we're talking about scrubbing the language of the ALA, not talking about getting out of it. Right? I appreciate that distinction. And it's the same thing. It's the same thing. It sets the tone that everyone else reacts to. I'd like to see a tone set that's inclusive, that's welcoming to new people in the community, that's inclusive of all opinions, and that a library that provides access to all ideas. Thank you.
I think you had your hand up a couple times back left. Then we'll go with you.
My name is Stephen Clifford, and I'm from Lander. I think here, the point of common ground that we can find with everyone is that we all love the library. We all grew up in the library, we all love it. I am in support though, of removing the ALA language from the library documents. I think that the ALA has outlived its usefulness. The organization began in 1876, and it was founded by several men that were so passionate about books that they devoted their lives to improving the access of books to all. From them, we got the Dewey Decimal System and access to a wealth of knowledge and literacy that benefited the masses, not just a few. Thanks to these men, books no longer belong only to the elite. But time has a way of warping original intent. After its original purpose was realized, and they did a fantastic job of doing that, the ALA ventured into activism. The final report from the Intellectual Freedom and Social Justice Working Group that's on the ALA website, published in 2022, stated, libraries should be a force for social change. We in the American Library Association can no longer remain passive and compliant in the face of continuing inequity and injustice. We aspire to a more equitable, diverse, and inclusive future and refuse any longer to hide behind the practice of neutrality. I think this ventured from their original intent, the reason that they established this organization. A quick visit to the ALA website will reveal the organization's current beliefs that demolish the groundwork laid by the founders. Advocacy, diversity, equity, inclusion. Those with a cursory knowledge of history will recognize those words as coming from Marxist ideology. In fact, the Montana State Library Commission rejects the ALA on these grounds, citing the ALA's values as incompatible with their oath to the Constitution. The founders of the ALA brought people together through literature that spoke to the human soul and the betterment of the humanity that we all share. The modern ALA desires to use taxpayer-funded materials to separate people into superficial categories because, quote, people should be able to see themselves reflected in the resources and programs that libraries offer, end quote. So unfortunately, I will never be able to be moved by To Kill a Mockingbird, Amos Fortune-Free Man, The Old Man in the Sea. Because I am not a small girl from the South dealing with the crisis of conscience, or a man liberated from slavery, retaining my dignity and courage, or a man down on my luck, screwing up courage in the face of defeat. It is not enough that I am human, and I should wrestle with these issues and improve humanity.
Hands off. Black shirt in the back.
Hi, my name is Jesse Crawford, Lander, Wyoming. I've been a community member here for 7.
I'm sorry, what's your name?
Jesse Crawford.
Thank you.
I've been a community member here for 17 years. I moved here from the South as a young adult. And here I found a community that was willing to engage and connect with each other in a way that felt warm and welcoming. I love this town and its people. My understanding is that this library system does not have an organization membership to the ALA. So my comment is not about the ALA specifically, but about some of the language that's making waves Language serves purpose and has meaning, and those things can change over time and have different connotations in different places. Diversity, equity, and inclusion are words that were created with the intention of making sure people are aware and competent in navigating a world of people who are different than themselves. The golden rule is treat others how you want to be treated. Even better than that, and what DE&I is striving for is the platinum rule, where you treat others how they want to be treated. Libraries are a place of welcoming and belonging, but operating in a world of people with many different stories and lived experience also takes knowledge, skill, and intention. Being nice is a good start and something I felt a lot in Wyoming, but there's more depth needed. The words diversity and equity inclusion have become charged and politicized, so my request as a community member is that any removal of these phrases is replaced with something that still embodies the principles of communities that work to understand each other and make space for everyone at the table. I want to offer and encourage you as a board to explore and consider language and concepts like cultural competency and creating a sense of belonging for our community. If those words are so politicized that people can't hear them and use them, great, let's let our language evolve and find something that still gets at the whole core of working to see each other and be seen. Thank you.
In the back, yep.
Sarah Riley from Lander, just a couple of quick points that I want to make. First is, diversity, equity, and inclusion falls very, very firmly under the freedom and justice and liberty for all. That's all that is. It's just expanding on that. So please keep that in mind when you're talking about that language. Second is I want to let you know that the very first time that I ever opened up a book where I looked at it and I thought, what in the hell are those two people doing on this page? It was not from a library. It was from a book that my friend brought to school from her mother's collection in 2nd grade. I did not learn about it at the library. I had another point. If we're talking about how we're setting a tone and how we're communicating with people, I think it's also really important to note that your board needs to communicate with the public at all times in a way that is clear and professional. And I have no idea where the source of this came from, but it was perpetuated further by Ms. Wetzel last week when I was publicly accused of defrauding the social security system and not being disabled. That is the kind of person that this commission has put on this library board, and she has since apologized. And I want to recognize that that apology has come, but that conversation should never have happened, and it should sure as hell never come from a person in leadership in our community. And the third thing I want to tell you is that a book has never raped a child, but a pastor has. So I think it was really the wrong building.
Hello, my name is Lenny Poitras. I'm from Lander. In America, libraries are widely celebrated as the palaces of the people. And our libraries create places of belonging for all our citizens. Despite their long-standing position as highly trusted institutions and community hubs, our libraries are facing alarming attempts to politicize and defund them. These attacks are coming from a small but very vocal minority across the nation and locally. And they view the openness, inclusion, and freedom that we value as a threat. In the 1950s, U.S. Senator Joseph McCarthy presided over the banning and burning of thousands of books. The silent majority of Americans hoped that it would just pass and go away, as they do now, but it didn't. It took a determined group of librarians, authors, publishers, business leaders, parents, and community activists to affirm what would become the opening words of the landmark Freedom to Read statement. The freedom to read is essential to our democracy. Democracy. Republic is another word for it, but it's not in contradiction to that. The American Library Association, or the ALA, is the largest and most respected membership association in the world for the library industry. It is a community of people working together to ensure that libraries remain vital centers of literacy, access, and opportunity. The American Library Association is vital for libraries and librarians. And we can go on. I know, there's some details. It was totally unclear to me exactly what the distinction is between getting rid of ALA or just wiping it away. I don't quite understand. But you must make up your mind, or you just can't make up your own base, your own organization called the World Library Association, based because you're frustrated by some of the things that you see in another organization. You can't just make it up based on your anger over the content of a few books. That appears to be what the World Library Association is. It is not comprised of thoughtful and highly educated librarians and professionals. Quite the opposite. Instead, it appears to be a backlash from angry ideologues. They have their constitutional right to express their frustration, but that does not make them a professional body, and they cannot replace a professional association. And I think we really need to go to the point. The point is, this was and is censorship. People are upset about any kind of reference to the LGBTQ community. They are offended by any sexual material, although it's present throughout our culture. So we need to understand that that is what the real problem is.
My name is Mary Graff. I moved to Lander 4 years ago to be near grandchildren. I'm a retired children's librarian. I had jobs in Vermont and New York State, so I'm very familiar with the ALA. I used ALA publications to read book reviews and make the selection for babies through teens in my library. I was choosing what my community was looking for. So I was very aware of the books that they were reading, the interests that they had. Occasionally, a parent would come to me upset about a book that their child had pulled off, sometimes from the sex and sexuality, reproduction, information that's valuable as children are growing and developing. And I would use that opportunity just to calmly walk through the collection and find a variety of material that others might find objectionable. An atheist might not appreciate our collection of Bible stories. And when they had the opportunity to see that, oh, there are books for me and there are books for others. And it's my job as a parent to choose what my children read. So for me, ALA was an invaluable resource, and I would hate to see a whitewashing in terms of library policy from an organization that's almost 150 years old.
Yeah. My name is Lisa Sheehan. I'm a senior. I truly believe with all my heart that children should have the right to be exposed to what is true and good and beautiful. And our country was based on that, it was born on that. Until recently, a lot of other things were allowed. I just recently got an email telling me that, a notable news headline summarized, disgusting, despicable, depravity, drag queen with exposed buttocks, dances for child while adults are free. Adults cheer drag queen dances for little girl. This was all part at the Lafayette Public Library in Louisiana. And the person, drag queen, said, this is going to be the grooming of the next generation. We are trying to groom the next generation. The American Library Association posts a page on their website with promotional materials, toolkits, and a link to the official Drag Queen Story website. Why would we want to be associated with the American Library Association? This is it. I printed it out. It has all the links. They're totally for it. They'll give you the information and help you do this. Now, why should we trust the American Library Association with the education of our young citizens? What are we thinking about? This doesn't make any sense. People don't want diversity, quality, and all those things. You have a right. You have a free will. but it should not be upon children. They should not be able to walk into the library and see something that their parents don't want them to see. I mean, it may happen, but we don't have a right to have drag queen shows in our libraries, and we don't have a right to have children exposed to material at the children's level that should be in the adult section. It doesn't make any sense. So I ask you to consider that. And if you want to see for yourself, you can go to the ALA website and you can find all these things yourself. Thank you.
All right, last call. Any other public comment?
Reverend Janet Seeley, and I didn't come prepared to make any remarks. But I totally support that we need to be operating out of an atmosphere of love, acceptance, support, encouragement. And I think that's what our library does. Instead of being fearful about something we might find, let's work together and work with our children. My child 60 years ago found something in a school library that I found objectionable. And when I brought it to the school library, they said it would censorship would be taken off. And what it created actually was a very positive thing. I had conversation with my child. I had openness with my child. And we discussed our different thought processes. You know, my thought processes and my value system is not going to be the same as someone else. And as a minister, I totally see the beauty of all people and ideas. There are libraries bring forth ideas, research, science. We're always learning and evolving. Anything on human sexuality. We used to think that it was just a straight text. There's a whole continuum of human sexuality. So let's not get tied up just in sexuality or words. Let's look at the broad diversity of humankind and look at the ideas and thought processes that are generated in our library. So I would submit we need to leave that ALA language in there. And let's look at the fact that we have local control over here. We have meetings where we can say, oh, maybe we look at this, but we don't include it. We have local control. Let's not go with an organization that is very restrictive, that is represented by, you know, there are tons of boards, and it is a conflict of interest to have two folks on two boards like that. We need to be careful of that. When I worked for city government, we often had city officials who said, I recuse myself, I will not vote on that particular issue because I have my own personal thoughts on it. You guys are here to represent everybody in the community and new ideas and thought process. So I ask the people to do that. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, hi, I'm Juan Layton. Deaf as a post, so I hope I can speak loud enough. I've lived in Lander for 52 years. I take umbrage with the name World Library Association. There's nothing about the world or worldly about it. And I find this attacking all this weird sexuality thing. Americans sexualize way too much. And this is, I actually model, I live in Denmark a lot. I go back all the time. I model naked in Denmark in schools as young as 5th grade. They're not a bunch of rapists. They have sculptures over there like mannequin piss on downtown in many villages and cities all over Europe. And if you don't know what that sculpture is, you better look it up. This is not worldly, this is petty crap. And I hate the idea that we're gonna turn this sexualizing of the body and of people's identity and stuff as a means to remove us from a resource like ALA. Thanks.
Well, you've already commented, ma'am.
So I don't have a chance
And
to
you've
ask
already
another
commented.
Once and you're out, huh?
You guys can always email and those kinds of things too, but we do have a lot of people here and we do have an agenda. And so it's not that I'm not offering, but everybody giving, you know, you've had a chance to comment, so.
But I have a question about the agenda. Can I ask that question of this group? No, I can't ask the question.
You have your chance for public
I'm
comment
asking the question.
and the agenda is published. It's public.
New business 7A or B. They've already planned to remove the ALA. It's an action item for today's agenda.
No. There was a vote taken on this motion at the last meeting. The meeting was public. The recording was on. The approval of that motion has been sent to the county attorney. It will go out for public comment. This item on the agenda is to update on what the county attorney has returned to us and what we are doing right now, which is listening to your guys' public comment and to discuss the start and end of the public comment period. That is what this agenda item is on the agenda.
The removal of the ALA language.
That was the motion, so that's why it's listed that way. All right, we're going to move on. I do want to make, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you.
My fault. I thought, I misread the agenda. I thought we would have a chance to speak when you were referring to that item. I'm Katie Chavez. I am a longtime retired librarian at South Elementary and I'm not, anyway, I'm not very good at speaking a lot, I guess. But I'm concerned that if we say, I mean, I don't even know what your motion means. To remove language of the ALA from your policy manual, because your policy manual reflects policies of the ALA. And those are policies that I do not want to go away. For instance, it seems like there were a couple I was just gonna read. For instance, publishers, librarians, and booksellers do not need to endorse every idea or presentation they make available. It would conflict with the public's interest for them to establish their own political, moral, or aesthetic views as a standard for determining what should be published or circulated. That WLA clearly violates that. So would this language go away if you want to get rid of ALA references? The other one that I think is super important for people to be aware of, policy number 600, this is all under the materials acquisition. It is the responsibility of publishers and librarians as guardians of the people's freedom to read, to contest encroachments upon that freedom by individuals or groups seeking to impose their own standards or tastes upon the community at large, and by the government whenever it seeks to reduce or deny public access to public information. I guess my point is, you're trying to do just that, and it violates your responsibility as well.
Any other public comment? Nina, do we have anyone on Zoom? Okay. I want to just make one point of clarification as the board chair, and I think I speak for the board here. If I don't, feel free to jump in. There has been no discussion, no motion, no movement, no any talk at any board meeting related to closing a library in Fremont County. The budget was a hard fought. We worked on it and worked on it. Anita had to repropose it 3 times, Anita. I think it has been approved for the year. We will have to go through budget again at the end of the fiscal year, just as we always do. At that point in time, the money we have available, we will stretch as much as we can. And prior to my being on the board, and I'm sure after my being on the board, the library employees and the board members have, and the support foundations, the Friends and the Library Foundation have found every way possible to stretch every single dime to serve every library as good as they can. And I have every faith in the world they'll continue to do that. So that, whatever is circulating around the community or social media and that aspect does not need to be a concern until the next fiscal period in which we will see what we have for finance. Okay,
That was never raised today.
so,
Well,
well, I heard it 3 or 4 times today is why I'm addressing it, that we don't want our libraries to close. I don't think anyone wants that. Okay, reports roundtable, Mike, you're on.
And you kind of a update from kind of commission activity. Sorry, I just sent absence for about a month, but this was mostly out of our last meeting. Little Orange Springs Road up in DuBois, we've been fought in a contest with the Esperanza Corporation. They claimed that road was not public or a section of that road, and we took umbrage with that. We've been in a court battle. The judge ruled against the counties, and so that limits a little bit of the access, especially up at 3rd Street up into 4th Street. We're also having discussions with the BLM because BLM, we have a 2-track that goes through there. It's not an enrolled road in our state trails program, which we're trying to get to, and they're getting more and more concerned that because of the Rocky Mountain sheep, that we need to do possible closures on that road. The problem is Fremont County Road values their access to federal lands. And this is continuing, we're continuing to fight battles to keep that access open. So anyway, that's an ongoing, and we're going to discuss whether we take that up a level at the next court. Anyways, Anita did present the library report to the commission. The report identified strategic initiatives, and the commission has asked the library board to develop objectives to meet those goals. For me, my comments to Anita were I always see a lot of lofty, idealistic, strategic goals with no specific action plans to achieve them. And she has said that her and the board are gonna work on that, and I'll take her at that word, but it is something that we'll be looking for on a regular basis. I'm sorry,
Pardon
this
me,
is my.
Commissioner. Okay, but actually, we have an implementation plan that lists objectives under each of the priorities. I didn't present it because I didn't think that was something that was necessary for the annual report to the county commission. So
I look forward to seeing it. And action plans and then follow up throughout the year. That's what I.
well,
Looking
it's a
forward to it.
document that exists already, so.
Great, there's a document. We'll see the plan and follow through, that's all. Look at the court, Amanda Sanchez, they've been working on computerized filing. And have been moving in that direction for some time. And as with any new program, there's a lot of issues with computer bandwidth and things like that. So she made an update on that. It was good to see County Attorney Michael Wyatt is back at work after some health issues. We just hired a new attorney. We've done some positions, so we're gonna get that filled up.
You guys, can we be quiet, please, in the audience so we can hear? Thank you.
October 11 has been declared 4-H week in Fremont County. Our coordinator, Tanya Sandy, has been with the county for about a year, made significant impact to the program. My extension office works in partnership with Fremont County to run that program. Gardens North subdivision has come up recently. This is a subdivision a little bit on the north end of Riverton, and it has fallen into a really, really poor condition. They're concerned about their water, they have drug use, they have a lot of criminal activity. They came to commission and asked for help. So the commission is gonna be forming a committee. Where Commissioner Fabricius is gonna lead up and we're looking now to the county attorney, county sheriff's office, Fremont County Fire, county health and others to try to bring some solutions that would offer some relief to that group. FGAG, Fremont County Association of Governments, has formed a subcommittee to focus on ambulance issues and sustainable funding. That Pryor is leading that effort. We look forward to hearing from them in the near future. Our building maintenance manager left the county, and currently John Hammerlink is the new interim manager for the maintenance department. Kevin Schultz, the ISS director, is retiring at the end of November. We are recruiting for that position. We've got some resumes currently. Trudy Brown, his assistant, is also leaving, so that might leave some concerns. We'll have to make sure we talk to Kevin here in the next 2 months and make sure we get what we need out of our other system. The 911 dispatch committee around the state, there's been a lot of issues with the 911 system with lack of coverage. So our system, actually go back up here, the state system costs about $12 million to operate, and there's about $9 million of funding to do it. So we're not the only community struggling with that. Our dispatch committee is formed and they're looking at potentially becoming a joint powers board so that everybody has a say and has a stake in it, a seat at the table. So they've been continuing down that conversation to improve that coverage. The county did receive requests from attorneys representing several local newspapers and claimed commissioners were not transparent in compliance with state statutes when we did the ranked voting method for appointments to the library board. The individual votes by commissioners were not published, only the final results. The attorneys have asked for a complete redo of the process. The commission is working on a response and we hope to have something in the next meeting. That's all I got.
Questions for Commissioner Jones? All right, Anita, do you want to expound on anything in your report?
Just so the public knows, the combined library reports, which include the director report and then each of the branch manager reports, are on the website. So the September reports are posted there. I think it's very interesting reading because there are some great things going on at our libraries. And I just want to be sharing stories on occasion from different just from our different branches and response that we get from the public. And here at the Lander Library, we got this great little thank you card and a basket of goodies, and it was from a homeschool literature group that uses our facilities to do their classes every week. And it's signed by all the kids and it says, "Dear amazing librarians, we want to express our sincere thanks and appreciation for all that you have done and continue to do to support the literature groups and homeschoolers in Lander. We love our library, librarians, and all of the staff who do amazing work for our community. Thank you all for everything. Many thanks, Joni Gould and all her kids." So yeah, it's good stuff. So I was at the Wyoming Library Association conference last week. And at the conference, I did receive my award. Thank you. And it was, it is an honor, and I don't even really know who all nominated me for this award, but I know that there were multiple people who contributed letters of support for my nomination, and some of you might be in this room even, and just thank you very much. And it was an opportunity to just reflect at that reception on why I do what I do. And I want to read to you part of my report because I think we need to know why we pursue working in a library, being on a library board, so that we're intentional about serving our community in a non-biased way. And so I received my award and appreciated the opportunity to share my thoughts on my librarianship journey so far. My mission in this profession is to love people through library service. As a Christian theist, I am informed by the definition of love as originating in God and consisting of action that demonstrates patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, forgiveness, and other-centeredness. As a person and a public librarian, I'm also a constitutionalist who's committed to freedom of speech and equal protection under the law. It's not my role to judge others or require them to agree with my beliefs. Rather, respect for every individual who enters our libraries is central to my library service mindset. I look forward to many more years of serving the Fremont County community this way. It's not often that you get to be recognized for how you invest your time, your talent, your treasure. And so I just appreciated this opportunity and this award. And hopefully, you know, a Lifetime Achievement Award is kind of, how old am I? I hope there's much more of my lifetime left to do good in this world. And I think that's just all I'll share from my report.
Do you think we'll have the phone system resolved before Kevin leaves?
That's the plan, and it's actually the whole county phone system change that happened.
I just noticed, yeah, you had I went on the website yesterday or whatever, and it said Riverton, no phones.
Yep, so and our workaround has been to forward all calls to the main branch. And so library staff here are just fielding all those calls.
Mike, have you had problems with, in the rest of the county with the email system recently?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so that's countywide.
No, that was because I had significant issues. Okay. We'll move on to unfinished business. The children's computer filtering. I have absolutely zero update on this topic. I thought that I had the straight line Brandon, who was going to provide me all these quotes and things, and he kind of ghosted me. And I kind of got away, so I apologize for that. I have not received anything that he told me he would send me. And when I kind of realized how close we were to the meeting, I didn't have time to pursue anyone else. So that is my fault, and I have zero update on that.
Well, I just want the board to consider an alternative to additional filtering, because we're filtering at the network level. And, you know, a couple of you, well, actually 3 of you, in recent months went into the library to test the filtering. And on the children's department computers, and, you know, actually, the way that went, to me, demonstrates that our staff are doing their job. When, you know, 2 of you go into the children's department while there are children there, a staff member approaches you and wants to redirect you to the adult computers. And then you tell them, you told him your purpose. He said, well, can we do this at a time when there aren't children in the department? The test proceeded. After several steps, you were able to get around the filtering. So no filtering is perfect, but the main point is that the library staff person was there and aware and monitoring the activity. So perhaps consider, instead of, you know, additional filtering on top of filtering the network, just adding a policy change that would say the children's computers are available when a library staff person is present, or when a parent is present, or a legal guardian is present. We aren't having a problem with children accessing pornography on our computers. If kids are doing that, it's on their personal device, and we're filtering the network. That's about all we can do for that. But when it comes to the physical computers, I think what our practice is demonstrating is that we're being effective in knowing what children are doing on the computers. So I think that, combined with the network filtering, is accomplishing the goal. So that's something for the board to consider. It's not an action item for right now, but I think that's a worthwhile alternative to finding another filtering software product.
So I would say, the purpose of what I was looking into was, you know, that the plan was to replace the computers anyway, so that if we could combine filtering with the new computers, I don't know, you know, what information I will turn up from here. We will have to have this on, we did motion as a board and pass the motion and change the policy sometime back to add filtering to the children's computers. I would reiterate that there was no workaround to get porn to come up on the computer. We just literally Googled porn. But if we want this on the agenda for next month, does someone want to write up potentially taking Anita's language and we look at it from a different angle to maybe change our policy? I don't think there's any, I had zero issue with the employees. I think why, when the technology exists and we voted as a board to filter the computers, why would we put that extra onus on a short-staffed people anyway? Yes.
I'm sure. I would also add that the county commissioner sent us a letter last April, which included language that they wanted filtering on the computers. In addition to a definition of, a more specific definition of what pornography is. That would protect children from accessing it either online or in other materials in the library. So it wasn't, and that letter also threatened to remove the board chair if we didn't accomplish this. So I don't know that it would be such a great idea to then change the policy that we've already voted on.
Any other discussion, Dave?
How do we know we're effective? Because, you know, you have Google histories and things like that when you're on your computers. You could have in your own house Net Nanny, which goes through and just records every site that anybody travels to. So do we have that? I mean, do you know you're effective because you went through and looked at all the histories and there's no porn?
Well, we know we're effective in the children's department when staff are there, when children are on the computers, and there's no porn access happening.
But not electronic record.
Cool.
Why, if we are there and it's not happening, why do we need an electronic record to, we're there?
You wouldn't, okay.
I mean, I think, if we're getting new computers, might as well put the software on there. And let's just table this till the next meeting, till you took over on this one.
Yes.
Then you can get information and present it to us.
Okay.
And then we'll look at it at that point.
Do you want to?
And meanwhile, I think, you know, the library is gonna look at, but I don't see a point for electronic record when the librarian's sitting there watching, like, I mean, that's. You know, I mean, that's just more, whatever, but I just think at this point, there's no point in discussing, we don't have information.
Right.
We're planning on doing this, let's table this till next month, and hopefully we will have some bids at that point, and we can look at it.
Is everybody okay with tabling until November? Yes. I don't think that needs a motion. I will add it to the action item list. Okay. Okay, next item, statistics requests. We had two separate ones. The, item one would be the statistics that were presented in the draft of the annual report that you presented last month, those on a regular recurring basis. We want to tackle those first and then second statistics.
So the normal, we've had some discussion about this one and the idea of giving you all a quarterly update on statistics seemed like an agreeable idea. And I don't know why we need to see this information every month. Actually, what was sent in the email says that the request was for monthly circulation by library and category, as I provided to you previously for some history. And the number of visitors to each library every month, as well as program attendees at each library room usage. And then for context, I would like the stats for the last 2 years prior for that specific month included as well. At least overall circulation by library and overall visitors, if more detailed reporting is not possible. I want to know just, why this extra level. I think, to me, what's reasonable is to give you all a quarterly update on the statistics we normally gather and include in our annual report. I don't think you need a monthly circulation by library and category on a regular basis.
Is that difficult to come up with?
It takes time because what I presented to you, I had to combine different item types. And I don't see how that information is important to you because collection management and collection maintenance is an operational duty and responsibility of myself and the library staff who have those duties as well.
Marta, sure. I was the one who requested that, and the reason I did so, I'd be amenable to having a quarterly report, but I would like it with more detailed information, because as we've broken down the statistics on each library, they're very, very different. And so it would be helpful as a governing board to understand which collections are working and which are not, or what's, if something improves, why, and to be able to analyze that instead of having only aggregate information, which doesn't give us a full picture. And so because of what has happened over the past couple of years with the library system, and with so many fewer people, and specifically in Riverton, visiting the library, the circulation per capita going down drastically, and overall, the fact that the library system in Fremont County has the worst circulation in the entire library system of Wyoming, I think it behooves the board, as a governing board, to find out, dig down deep, and find out what's actually working and what isn't. And that's the purpose of wanting statistics on a regular basis. But as I said, quarterly would be fine.
I still don't think that you need the deep dive because managing the collection is the responsibility of the director and the managers. I think the overall picture that you get is sufficient for what the board's role is. And, I'm a little concerned about some of the preconceived ideas and conclusions that are being drawn just based on a very few data points that don't consider the context of other things that have affected the decline of visitors and the change in circulation patterns. So
my feeling is, coming from sort of a medical background, this data is always nice. It can get you skewed, it can be very confusing. But I think if you can provide to the board on a quarterly basis, this information broken down by the different towns, is something we can talk about. It's something, we can discuss. It doesn't mean that the board in any way is going to micromanage or should micromanage. That's not our job. Our job is to set policies and kind of look at the overall system. But I think if it's something the board members want, if you can generate that on a quarterly basis, gives us something to discuss.
So what is reasonable to me then would be a breakdown of circulation by library and just adult collection, young adult collection and juve collection, but not any more detailed than that within those collections. Because that's not data that we normally collect. That was a special report that I did for you all. But that's not what we normally.
No, and we realize
Like
that
an
time
object
is like, I mean, you're overwhelmed with, the stuff that you're trying to work on, so I think, keeping it to that, breaking down the different levels. Kids, young adults, adults, and the 3 different libraries should be good, right?
Well, and foot traffic as well.
I do think having a comparison for the quarter of that year prior gives you a good picture.
Right.
So that you can, I mean, as somebody who compares statistics a lot to make financial decisions in a private job. When you can compare the past to, you can trend that way.
And the digital checkout,
Mhm,
because
that's
what we're
included.
seeing that,
Right.
to take over, so, yeah.
Alright, so we're clear. Quarterly reports, each of the individual libraries, adult, children's, young adult, foot traffic, and compare it to the last 2 years.
And digital.
And digital compared to last.
Do we need a motion?
I'm not crazy about the last 2-year inclusion, that's,
Well, you've got that already.
well, it's doable. How about just the previous year?
I would really appreciate the last 2 years because it's been such a drastic change over the last 2 years.
Okay.
I mean, you need a trend analysis. You gotta know where you started and where you are and, I mean, and how you got there. And if you just look at this month, it's gonna take us 2 years to like develop any trend. It's
Yes.
basic statistics. Okay,
Yes,
so
but really, what is done with those statistics is really under the collection management responsibility that's operational, and that's the director and managers. So it'll be interesting information for you.
Yes.
And if I see something that is worth noting and can provide context for, then it will mean more to you. But I am worried, Perry, about the board becoming micromanaging of the collection. And, when the next request is more of an information request than a statistics request. To me, this next request demonstrates that idea of the board becoming too involved in collection management, and maybe we move on to that. So the quarterly report, I'll generate that for you. The next information request. Are we ready to move on?
I think
Kristen?
so, is everybody left? Okay, yes.
So I would like to know who requested this particularly. So this request is to provide in an electronic format, number one, a list of every book purchased from January 1st, 2021 to the present. A list of every book weeded out from the collection from January 1st, 2021 to the present. The list should include which branch the book went to and which branch the book came from. Number 3, a list of interbranch transfers from 2021 to the present. Riverton to Lander, Lander to Riverton, Du Bois to Riverton, etc. Then provide numbers 1 and 2 on a monthly basis going forward. And I'd like to know why no board has ever requested this.
So if you go to the Riverton Library, the shelves are half full.
No, that is not true.
It is true. I went in there with the table.
Okay,
It
well,
is.
I think, should we give an executive section?
well, I need you guys to be quiet. Okay. Dave has the floor. This is your point.
We need this information. What books are you buying and which books are you selling? Okay? Why are we selling books every single month? When we have like wide open shelf space. And then you're selling them to, and giving them, basically giving them to the friends. So that they can put the money in their bank. It makes no sense. I wanna see what we're selling, and I wanna see what we're buying.
Harry?
I think by the state statutes. The library board job is to hire a qualified director. We're not here to micromanage, and I think Julie Priest has gone over that very clearly. This is not asking what everybody has been deleted or bought in the last 4 years is not what a board should be doing. We're here to set policy. We're here, our first job is to hire a competent manager, a competent director rather, and we have fiscal oversight and we set policy. This is ridiculous micromanaging, I am completely against.
Here.
Mhm.
Karen?
I think that part of what Dave is asking for has to do with our financials. We spend a lot of money, I've been looking at the financials. We spend a lot of money buying new books. And we'd like to know why we're constantly buying new books. Or we're giving away some of our very good books. It's a financial.
Okay, I'm not gonna ask again, I'll change the location of the meeting. And I have the right to do that under Wyoming State Public Meeting Law.
He's our treasurer, and I think that he has a right to look at anything that has to do with finances for the library.
Every book that we've purchased, it's available to see on the online public access catalog. You can see every book in our collection. You can search that. Actually, what I'm hearing is that you are questioning decisions. You've come to a conclusion that you see space on a shelf and you're concluding that we're getting rid of too many books. We have guidelines for collection maintenance, for weeding the collection. It has to do with condition of the book. It has to do with the timeliness or obsolescence of information. It has to do with popularity. You know, at the Riverton Library, a previous manager liked the visual of a shelf that was half full because it makes shelving easier, because shifting books is a great big job. So the fact that there's space on a shelf does not mean that we've weeded too many books. You know, we could easily reduce the number of shelving and pack the shelves. And would that create an impression that our collection is full and well maintained? No. So there are other reasons for things that you observe. And this is why you hire a librarian for this purpose, to maintain the collection, to oversee purchasing, to oversee weeding. We cannot even produce a list from 4 years of books that we've removed because the database doesn't work that way. And I just feel like you're wanting to evaluate the choices of what's being ordered.
Yes, that's right.
And you can look on our catalog, and if you object to a book that we've purchased, then there is a request for reconsideration process. And just because you're a board member doesn't mean you get to avoid that process. If there's a book you want to suggest that you don't see in the collection, you've got the opportunity to do that too. So this is not necessary information for the library board.
So you're refusing to do that.
Would you like me to say that I'm refusing? Because why, David? Why would you like me to say that?
Okay, well.
It's asking.
Anita. Is this information? This is a public entity with public finances. Is the information fall underneath the Sunshine Act? Is it public information? Does anybody know that?
Well, the information that's being asked is every book purchased. Every book we purchase is in the catalog. And that information is freely available right now through the online public access catalog. That's not hidden information. We buy it so that it can circulate. That's available.
If I search for a book, does it say at the time it was added to the collection? Does it have a date? on it?
I am curious why that's an important fact.
I'm just asking in relation to the requested information.
If
That you were trying to access it that way.
If you had a particular book that you wanted to know when it was added to the collection, you could call the library, you could look at the record and see when it was added to the collection.
Okay, so I'll take that as a refusal.
I'm stating my position as to why
Every book
I'm stating,
on my, is that what you're asking me to do? I
um,
want that information.
But I actually think that that is how you would have to get it. That it sounds like there's not a, no, I mean, that's not a refusal of a request, Dave, and I think, to me, as another board member, I'm feeling that you are really trying to push Anita to say, I can't do that, and then say, oh, well, you refuse. And that's sort of the feeling exactly, and you're nodding your head, yes, and you're nodding your head, yes, that's what you're asking. I think perhaps you should look at this as, is this one, what we want our director, who's supposed to be doing all of the education of the staff, the organization, everything else, and acting as a director. Do we want her spending time trying to figure out in this IT system that's basically losing the director and everybody else, of printing a report out for you on every book that were required in the last 4 years, and the disposal of every book we've had, or what's happened to every book that's been pulled in the last 4 years, to try and figure out some way to weed that information out of this archaic system. Is that where, as a board, we want to go for our director? Or do we want our director training the employees, supervising, trying to create programs for the public, and do the overall management of the system? And it seems to me that's personally not, as a board member, where I would want to direct our director to go and waste their time. That could take hours.
I'm just wondering, would it be possible to add to the public access catalog when it was purchased? As a data point?
I can look into it. I don't know if that information is already there.
I'll check it out too.
But I still would like to understand why you want to know when something was added to the collection. I don't feel like I've been given a good enough reason to spend time doing this when no other board in the history of our library system has asked for this information. And it seems to me like you want this information to question my judgment, question our purchasing. Why?
Go ahead.
There are two measures of success, main measures of success in a library. How many people go to the library and how much is being checked out. And that is all defined by the circulation per capita. And we are dead last in the state, okay? So I'd like all the data, everything I could possibly get to find out the reasons for that. Okay, and I can't get any of it. You're not giving us, I mean, you're feeding us little pieces and there's no way, I don't have any judgments on anything because I don't have any data. And we can't fix it unless we identify that there's a problem. And that's, and you questioning my motives is problematic, okay? I'm asking for data, I want data. And if you're refusing to give it to me, I understand, and I don't have to have a reason. It may not turn out to be anything. You know, but I need that in order to figure out what's going on.
I think information is very important. I think there are two separate issues here. One issue of micromanagement and asking for data that may take a long time to get. And the other issue of you saying, I get what I want, you know, you can't tell me what I can ask for or not ask for. I think as a board, we need to decide what we want to ask. And we need to say that as a group, not as an individual, with the consideration of our asks have to be reasonable for us to make a decision, and our asks also have to not impact the person we're asking so much that they can't do their job. So nickel and diming for a bunch of different stats may not be the appropriate way for a board to act. It may be more appropriate for us to discuss together what information we want, find out from Anita or from IT how we can generate it, or maybe from the Library Association, I mean, whoever can generate that data, and then go from there. Instead of been throwing out little bits, we want this, no, we want that, no, we want that, which is not an efficient use of a director's time.
I think that. A couple different things, I mean, to me, it would, as I posed before, I would like to know if this is publicly accessible information, I mean. Can I file a FOIA request for that? If it is, then it has to be provided. But from a point of working in the private sector and analyzing statistics constantly. I think that there is a good balance. We don't want to be looking for stuff that's not helpful and that we're taking a whole bunch of time to generate. However, when my supervisor asks me for statistics, I don't always know what he's looking for. I don't always understand why he wants them. But I have never said to him, you're micromanaging me. I'm not going to tell you where your money went. It's just not good. I would not have a job if I did that. So I do think we need to decide what we're looking for and ask for those things. But I don't think sharing information is neither good nor bad as far as what is someone's assumptions or what is someone's motives. The statistics on how the library is performing is just that. And they can be skewed one way or another, but the more you have, the better picture you develop of where you are. Then you can put into place your plan of where you want to go. I don't think you can, I don't know how we can drive as a board towards where we want to go if we don't have the information to get there. Yes.
So can we just go to getting the quarterly reports for now, and then we can discuss, maybe we should have
a working session?
Yes, a working session on, you know, exactly what other.
Would you like to motion that, Harry?
I would move that we get the quarterly reports as we already discussed and delineated. And secondly, we would like to set up a working session with the board to decide exactly what information and why we want it, so that we can have a clear list for Anita of the information that we need.
Okay, and would you be, do I have a second to that motion? I will second it. Would you be amiable or to, arranging this working session date and time by email? As opposed to doing it right now and everybody trying to affect their schedule in the effort of time? Yeah, okay. I will put that on the action item list. All in favor?
There needs to be discussion.
Yeah, any discussion, thank you.
Actually, this should be done publicly. Just make this a part of the next board meeting, because if you can't make decisions in that working session, and I think that this should be a public discussion. And it's not just a matter of, we're the board and we want Anita to do this. It's I think you are crossing the line into, operational decision-making. You can see everything that we buy on the catalog, you can look at the financials to see how much we're spending. With this issue about a list of every book, I think this is excessive and not a reasonable request.
Further discussion?
We can discuss it next month.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
I think you're wrong. I think that the stonewalling, providing information to us is now hitting a breaking point. And I think that we're going to have some, if you want a motion and change your roles and responsibilities as far as the collection, then we can go ahead and do that. But I don't know that that's an option, because I don't even know what's there.
Okay,
So-
let's call the question on the motion that's on the table. Harry, you wanna call the question on your motion to have a working session?
I don't even know what you mean by calling me question.
Meaning you are asking for a vote on that motion that's on the table. Or do you want to amend your motion, or?
I think I would like a little more discussion.
Okay. All right. Let's
I
keep it
think-
civil.
The,
I was speaking to all of us as a nurse, so.
I think it would be helpful to have a working session in that I think we have the potential of wasting an enormous amount of time trying to, for the public, trying to figure out what it is that we want as a board. And perhaps it might be good to have a facilitator in with us, somebody like Julie Freeze, who has a sense of a very good background in how the board should operate in terms of kind of where we should be in terms of what information, micromanaging versus overall, providing direction. And in that, we can, during that session, work out kind of what it is that we need. So I would like to see us have a working session and have a facilitator at that working session that can help us out, just because I think our opinions are, in terms of how a board functions, are very divergent.
Any other discussion? And I would have to check to see if Julie could
Right.
do something
Yeah.
like that. And I don't know, is Julie the appropriate person to do that? I'm asking.
Julie's very busy, but she might know, I mean, she may be able to give us some advice on to.
Okay.
And in any case, well, with a working session, we can't make any decisions, but at least we can make,
Say work session.
it's a working session, and then we can come out into a public meeting and say. Yep, motions, these are the things we would like to have discussion on it and then make a decision. I mean, a working session can make no decision.
Would you like to call the vote on your motion?
I would love to call it.
All in favor of a working session for the purposes of discussing what kind of information, aside from the quarterly reports we already decided on, what kind of information we'd like to see in the future that would be arranged date and time by email? All in favor? Aye.
No,
No. Okay, motion passes. Okay, we are moving on to new business. Point A. The proposed addition to board policies and procedures are cell phones. Do you want to take this on, Perry?
Yeah, I was just, actually, a member of the audience was complaining to me about the fact that one of our board members was emailing back, texting back and forth, and yeah, I was noticing some of the board members on their phones during our discussions, and I just think that it's really important that we focus on what we're doing and not on our cell phones. There's a time for public input during public input or during emails, and I think getting public input to a board member not during those times is not appropriate. So that's why I had suggested this. Addition to our general policies and procedures. Board members shall put their cell phones offline during board meetings, so they may concentrate on the discussion at hand.
Can you define offline?
Just put it on now, whatever you call airplane mode.
You want a motion or?
Yeah, I will move that and I will. Put that airplane mode instead of phones.
So is airplane mode just no, would vibrate just on mute?
I mean,
I
no,
don't want
it-
anybody
it's
not
your
to
wife.
It's essentially shut off.
Yeah, it's,
That's why we're gonna motion to stuff.
yeah.
Or we, yeah.
Okay, so I will move that we add to section 5 general policies and procedures. Number 6, board members shall put their cell phones offline during board meetings so that they can concentrate on the discussion.
So you want offline or airplane?
I think offline is all
Just
more,
scratch it out.
so I put it back on because it's airplane mode, because cell phone is specific.
Okay, do we have a second at all? I'll second for the sake of discussion.
I mean, I just had to text my son because he has a tutoring session at 2 and I can't have it offline. I put it on silent and I try to be discreet about when I need to get in contact with people. My husband has his own business. We have, there's things that come up and you have to know if they can simply get in touch with you. So I'm not in favor of putting on an airplane mode. I think it's respectful on silent, and if you have to check in or do something discreetly, then it's okay.
I, in my job, am on call. So in the event that there was an accident at the rig, I would actually have to get up and mute.
I would like to withdraw the motion, but I would just really would like people not to be texting back and forth with the audience. I mean, the audience sees it, they don't appreciate it, and I think it's bad. So, there, done.
Okay, so I'll just, as the chairman, I will throw out, if you must use your phone for work purposes or to be in touch with your children, try to do it discreetly, and please have your phones on silent during the meeting.
May I add also that the audience should as well.
It's been really quiet.
It has today, but in due course, there were several ringing phones in your voice. Okay, so we're done with that. Okay, B. Removal of the ALA language. This is the motion that was read and voted on last month. Update on county attorney comments and public comment period. I emailed Nathan Maxon, and I have that. I received a response from him yesterday. Says, and I'll pass this around. Hello, Kristen. I see no legal issues with the board removing all references to the ALA. However, our office objects to the following. This is the end of the motion. So the original motion read, eliminate all references to the American Library Association, ALA, and any material quoted from the ALA from our bylaws, policies, handbook, and strategic plan, and all other library documents, including public promotions and posters, as its mission, priority, and values contradict the US Constitution, Wyoming state statutes, and Fremont County community standards. So Nathan writes, I see no legal issues with the board removing all references to the ALA. However, our office objects to the following. As its mission, priorities, and values contradict the US Constitution, Wyoming state statutes, and Fremont County community standards. He says, regarding the Constitution and state standards, this language is an unsupported legal conclusion. As to community standards, again, this is an unsupported conclusion. I responded to this email and said, does the motion need to be amended to remove that language? As of 8:15 this morning, when I checked my email, I did not have a response to that. So that's where we stand there. It would be my understanding from that there is no legal problem. We can, the 45-day public comment period would be able to be in motion.
Well, until we get a final response to that question. we can't start the public comment period because
Okay.
it's still an unresolved issue, because if you have to redo the motion, which I would think that you would, that has to be done first.
We have to send it to the public, the final
So
motion.
when I get a response from Nathan, I will forward it on to the group. And we can go from there. Okay, I think that's,
I think we'll have to wait till the next meeting because, I mean, give us all the information. But we can't start the public comment until we make, if we have to change that motion. We have to do that in a public meeting, so
Yes.
the first that this is gonna be, I think it gets deferred to the next meeting.
right, but the response I will forward on as soon as I get it. The public comments that were put in today are a matter of permanent record and that, so they will be a part of the public comment, just so you guys know, will be recorded.
You know, actually, you could just redo the motion now. I mean, I think it's a good assumption that you would have to redo it.
So at that, it would then read. Eliminate all references to the American Library Association and any material quoted from the ALA from our bylaws, policies, handbook, and strategic plan. And all other library documents, including public promotions and posters, period. Yeah,
All right, I will motion to eliminate all references to the American Library Association and any material quoted from the ALA from our bylaws, policies, handbook, strategic plan, and all other library documents, including public promotions and posters. Period.
So, yeah,
you just get rid of all this. You can have that. Okay, do I have a second?
So,
Any discussion on the amendment of the motion?
Well, obviously, I'm still against this motion. If you want to proceed with it, I would ask that you remove the language about posters. Because sometimes we buy posters and it might have the ALA logo, and I do not see how that is politically harmful to the library.
Discussion? Not,
I'm gonna,
go ahead.
I think that you've seen an overwhelming response from the community, both in person as well as within the emails, that they are against removing the ALA from the library system. And I think it's, to me, appalling that this board is not receptive to the community and to what the community is expressing. And it just makes me very sad. And I will be voting, as you can expect, against this because it's against what our community wishes.
I would just say that we haven't even had the start of our 45-day comment period yet, so this is representative of today. I don't know that it's representative of the community. We won't know until the meetings.
That's a fair point, because 45 days gives ample opportunity for the whole community to respond. That's legit.
Karen, did you know?
I just wanted to say that in our policy manual, it does state additional board responsibilities, and it lists everything the ALA. And I don't agree with everything that the ALA says.
Any further discussion? Okay. So we're going to vote on the previously passed motion as amended by, or the recommendation that it was amended by the county attorney. So it now reads, read it.
Martin Mossberg moved to eliminate all references to the American Library Association, ALA, and any material quoted from the ALA from our bylaws, policies, handbook, and strategic plan, and all other library documents. including public promotions and posters.
Okay, all in favor?
Alright,
All opposed?
May.
So does public comment period in that?
you have to file this.
We will, I will re-email Nathan and tell him the motion was amended to state the following so that he knows that. And then also alert Julie Priest to that.
So
Then
I
that
think
will start the 45-day public health.
I think we start now, because you put it out, yeah.
Yeah.
So today,
Well,
how does the public comment?
we have to get it, there's a lot of documentation to create,
Okay,
so it may not start today.
You put in
Start
that
it
in the
when we-
paper.
When we put it on the website, we'll put it on County 10, we'll put it in the.
so there will be a place that, an easy place that the public can come to the website to comment?
Yes, or in person,
Okay.
at each library or via email, so we'll set up that. One thing related to this, I would like to know what other board members are a member of the World Library Association.
I am not.
Well, just the two of you guys.
I'm not a member. It doesn't exist.
It's you, Marta.
No.
Yeah, well, that, I would also.
We're not.
Man.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know anything about the World Library Association. It's a bunch of guys that got around and they don't like the library ALA. Okay? They don't really exist. They don't have any resources. They don't have anything that the ALA has, and there's no way in hell they would replace anything to do with it, okay? That was just reaching out to get educated on the library association. I'm not even involved in it, okay? So it's not, it doesn't exist. It really doesn't. And they're not even moving towards being able to do anything. And the only time it was brought up in this setting was when Perry brought it up. We never put it in a motion or did anything with that.
Marta, you talked about at one of the meetings, I'm gonna have to go back and try and find the recording, you talked about the WLA. And because of that, I never even heard of it, and because of that, when I'm.
Okay, Perry has the floor.
You, and you also said that you were involved with it.
I've never brought it up. I've never had an intention of, I think other people said it and they said it was the Wyoming Library Association in mistakenly, which I thought was kind of funny, but I've never intended to say that it's going to be a replacement. As Dave mentioned, it's just people who get together to talk about what's going on around the country. It helps me stay informed. I'm associated with it. It is my First Amendment right to be associated with it. I'm not part of any other library association in Fremont County. I just use it to stay informed. It's like a listserv basically of what's going on in the United States. So you were the one who brought it up in Du Bois last month.
I've never heard of it before you brought it up.
Perry, I've never brought it up.
That's okay, okay.
Yeah.
So the reason I ask is because, someone did bring it up in public comment and, there is a World Library Association and, whose mission says our mission is simple, your library, your way. We make best practice suggestions. You decide whether to use them. We aim to help you improve library services so much it's noticeable and favored by the community and by library employees / trustees themselves. Making libraries better and safer for everyone via application of common sense model policies is the mission. We guide people on auditing libraries and on running for library boards of trustees. And you're pictured here as a team member, Marta.
She has it right here.
So it's just,
Fremont County Library.
Okay, that's not needed. So really it's, you have a total right to be part of this organization, but there does need to be transparency. And I think, I want you to avoid a conflict of interest. So really you should recuse yourself from this vote.
Karen, you have.
Just as anybody here in this room has a right to be associated with the ALA if they'd like to be. Marty has a right to be associated with whatever organization she would like.
There's no disputing that. That's correct.
I get no financial benefit and no personal benefit from being a part of this or the WLA. I do this as a civic obligation, and I don't understand how there's a conflict of interest. You just don't happen to agree with my point of view. So that's why you think I should recuse myself. But just as Karen said, if someone else is a part of the ALA and they're supporting it, they have every right to believe it. But I somehow, because I'm part of a different organization, don't have a right to express my opinion. So my ability to express myself is narrowed while everyone else's should be expanded. That makes zero sense. I'm not going to recuse myself of this. I have every right to think and associate with groups that I want to. Go ahead.
When I agree, everyone has the right to associate with whomever they want. Part of our board is we don't want to have the appearance of conflict of interest where you're part, at least, I mean, I know you're saying you don't know these people and you're not part of them, but your picture's there. So I don't know what reality is at this point, but I think that in terms of our constituents, our patrons, the public, when you're voting, when you're part, apparently, and that may be false, but apparently part of a competing organization, and you're voting against a organization that has been around for 100 years and has great benefit to the hospital, the library system, it looks like a conflict of interest, whether it is or not, I don't know, but the appearance of conflict of interest is pretty bad. Particularly when you say, oh, I'm not part of it, and there's your pictures, whatever. I mean,
I don't know anything about the WALA. But as has been pointed out here by both the board and the public, the Fremont County Library System is not specifically affiliated with the ALA, nor are they specifically affiliated with the WLA. And the motion does not ask to remove ourselves from affiliation with the ALA to become affiliated with the WLA. So I don't see how that's, the library manual has a whole bunch of ALA language in it, but we are not affiliated as a library system with the ALA per Anita has told us that. So that's my take on it. Anyone else? Okay. Well, we don't have a motion. We're just discussing. Is everybody ready to move on? Hey.
See, I'm sorry, can we possibly take a 5-minute?
I would love that. Perched. I would love to a quick back. Right, everybody amenable to that? So let's be back. It's 2 o'clock. Let's be back at 2:05. Ish. So we're on new business, C, discussion of establishing a working group on public safety at Riverton Park. Dave, you wanna take this?
Sure. So this is a kind of continuation of the issue we have at Riverton with the homeless situation. We have, in 2023, there was an effort made by the library staff to open up the Riverton branch to the homeless population based on closing of one. So I checked out the crime statistics for the library. And we had an incident like once every 10 days prior to that point, and then it went up to once every 3 days. So it was 88 incidents of intoxication, battery. There's just a whole long list of which is those documents we posted.
Yes, the documents that were sent out.
Yeah, so which has all the analysis. And so we're trying to figure out a way to, we have a new homeless shelter that's opening up in Riverton, Grace House, which is, I'm sorry, at the park. And so we'd like to come up with ways to redirect that population to the new facility. I just know from a lot of parents that they don't take their kids there anymore. The lady that gave me the statistics from Riverton Police says she doesn't take her kids anymore because they had all these issues, you know, watching people get arrested. So it's a major problem. And,
So you're wanting to develop a working group within the board.
right, and I recommend Kristen and myself. Kristen has a lot of contacts with law enforcement.
Okay.
So.
Carrie?
I'd like to make just, I mean, I think working groups are great. I'd like to make two comments. One is that in terms of the public safety concerns, the data that you gave me, if you look at the number of calls in 2023 for the year, there were 88. In 2024, there were 68. In the first 6 months of 2025, there were 28, which means we're going towards 56. So I think whatever the Riverton Library is doing and the town of Riverton looks like it's working, because from 2023, we go from 88 to 68 to 56. Point number one. So I don't know if there really is an issue, and I think this is something we should, and we've also had two of the people in the audience, Linda Bebout, this little tiny little old lady who says it's fine, goes in and out all the time. And Marjorie, also, who's been a volunteer there forever, is feeling fine. So, you know, I guess the first question is there an issue? I know you feel strongly that there's an issue, but I look also at the data from our countywide survey, said there was an issue. Vast majority of people said they felt very safe. So that's point number one. But, you know, doing a working group, that's fine, because any kind of new ideas is great that we can pass to the director and they can see about implementing. The second thing I'd like to bring up is that what you did was inappropriate. In that you should by now know our board bylaws, policies, and procedures. And I know you've only been here for a few months, but you also sleep with someone who's been here for a few years.
No, that's inappropriate.
Wait,
That's inappropriate.
you share a
Okay,
Sharon,
okay.
You share a household with someone who's been on board for several years. And our policies and procedures are pretty thin. The biggest part is about the financials, which, you know, you're our treasurer, so you should be really familiar with this. But the general policies and procedures have 5 sections of them. It's really thin. And we had problems in the past, and Kristen's been around long enough to know that when we had board members kind of go off on these rogue, issues, it stirred up a lot of kind of problems between the county commissioners and also with public safety. And we decided at that time that as a board, we need to work as a board together. So before we go off and start gathering information, tapping resources, we need to make a decision as a board of what we're going to do. So if you look at section 5, general policies and procedures, number 1, communication. The chair should be the liaison between the board and management, the director. Any communication by a board member regarding the Fremont County Library System with county commissioners or public safety should first be discussed with the board, and board consensus should be reached prior to that discussion. Okay, so this is like number 1 in our, so I think I applaud this, and I think, setting up a working group is fine, but I think the board needs to follow our policy, our own board policies and procedures that were developed because of problems. And our commissioner can remember a lot of hoo-ha that we had in the past because of board members going off and being rogue. So I just want to sort of remind everybody, but again, the statistics look like in Riverton things are getting better. In terms of the calls of the police, 88, 68, when we look at 56 this year, the public things is getting better, and in terms of our countywide survey, it's good. But working group, I have no problem with that.
Well, I am going to say that I don't think that a new working group is needed, because this is an issue that we have talked about. And actually, I met with Lieutenant Martson of RPD yesterday morning, and I took him the document that you provided us, that's the list of calls, and we went through it together. And, you know, his comment was that this data is skewed. And there's more context here than just what's listed. You know, his basic conclusion was, and I asked if I could quote him, and he said, yes, quote, "The data presented is not indicative of a criminal increase." And he's willing to come to our next meeting to talk about this. And actually, you know, he gave a lot of important context to the information on here that not everything that has an address of the Riverton Library was actually a Riverton incident. He mentioned the apartment complex across the street from the library. They get a lot of calls, and sometimes those incidents spill over to library property. And then the library is referenced as the location where the interaction happened. He would like to look at actual records. And even the classification on here may not be what ended up being the case. Also, even if we just look at this straight for what it is, you know, we've got 5 years of a list here. In 2020, 37 total police responses to Riverton Library, maybe not now, we don't really know, but looking through those 37, 14 of those are disruptive behaviors, according to what our patron code of conduct is. You know, 2021, 33 total, 11 disruptive behaviors. 2022, 33 total, 14 disruptive behaviors. 2023, 88 total, 44 disruptive behaviors. 2024, 68 total, 29 disruptive behaviors. And so far in 2025, 33 total, 17 disruptive behaviors. So there's not enough context from this report to conclude that there's a huge criminal problem at the Riverton Library. And that's was Lieutenant Marston's conclusion.
Oh, sorry, thought you were done.
You know, actually, I would love to go point by point through David's email. There are 6 points here. And, you know, so there's a problem with the data that you shared, that it doesn't provide us enough context. You know, Lieutenant Martson was curious who particularly you talked to at RPD to get the information. And, you know, I want to talk about this number 4 in your email, mission shift at the library. What you said was, in reviewing local reporting, particularly a County 10 article titled "Riverton Library Offers Backing and Support for Unhoused Individuals," I learned that the branch made the decision to go beyond its traditional mission and extend resources toward backing and supporting the homeless population. So the article you're talking about, which you sent a copy of, you know, really reading this, and, you know, I know this is a former staff member. I read this and I see a compassionate library staff person who's trying to meet the needs of the unhoused. But I don't know what you see in here that are actual different programs that we do. You know, he wants to do more. And I remember when this actually came out, and there was a subsequent conversation with the manager and the staff about what is the appropriate library response within the parameters of our mission and our services. And so, you know, we did not become a homeless shelter. You know, there were no new initiatives to invite people to sleep at the library. We don't distribute food. We don't distribute clothing. But within our mission as a public library, helping them, directing them to resources, Eagles Hope, Almost Home Wyoming here in Lander. So the practical things that came out of this, we have a list of phone numbers at the front desk that we can refer people to. We are in touch with community organizations and the leaders of those organizations to know who to refer people to. When the warming hut in Riverton opened, that was a significant development for the whole city to have a safe, warm place for unhoused people to go. There's some things that happen when we're not at the library. And yeah, it happened that there were people sleeping on the property overnight. And we get there and, we tell them they can't be there. You also mentioned, number 5 of your email, you say a lack of public authorization. In reviewing meeting minutes, meaning library board minutes, I'm sure, you found no evidence of an agenda item, discussion, or vote authorizing library staff to commit resources to this new mission. This represents a significant policy shift undertaken without formal approval from the governing body. It may also warrant legal review to determine whether this action violated the open meetings law. Well, there wasn't anything in the minutes because there has not been any new mission. There was no new initiative. And your point number 6, decline in library performance. You say, unfortunately, the impact of this decision has been measurable. Our circulation per capita numbers have declined, resulting in the Fremont County Library System ranking the lowest performing county in the state. Well, I think this is a false correlation of the situation that you're addressing here. And so you conclude your email, you have possible solutions. There are many potential approaches to addressing this issue. These could include enforcing and possibly expanding the current code of conduct, working with the Riverton Police Department to redirect the homeless population to Mercy House and the new homeless shelter being established in the park, and installing additional no loitering signage, among other measures. And so based on all of this, you're recommending establishing a working group. And I just have to say, your recommendation is based on skewed information that has no context, false information, and also a lack of knowledge of actions, former and current, that have been done and that we're already doing on this issue. And so I wanted to share, in January of 2024, I went to a county commission meeting and presented a report on the topic of safety at the Riverton Branch Library. And let me just share what I shared with the commissioners then. A few months ago, so this would have been in fall of 2023, Commissioner Thomas raised a concern about safety at the Riverton Branch Library. I'm happy to share ways that we approach safety and security at all of the libraries, and specifically actions we take or have taken at the Riverton Branch. Actions include, number 1, for years, the Riverton Branch managers had ongoing training in staff meetings and one-on-one with library staff in situational awareness and procedures for handling disruptive patrons. A regular practice has included walking the grounds in the afternoons to stay aware of who's around. Number 2, in October of 2020, we conducted a Riverton Branch security audit in the building and on the grounds to identify any new initiatives to enhance safety. This included the Fremont County Maintenance Supervisor, a deputy from the Sheriff's Office, and the Fremont County IT Supervisor. The primary recommendation was to update the security camera system, which we have done. For several months in 2021, we had funding for a library resource officer who was a Riverton PD officer that we contracted with to provide a security presence during the school year for 3 to 5 p.m. The officer was excellent to work with. However, scheduling was problematic and funding was limited. Number 4, we updated the Riverton Branch security camera system this past summer, which this is January 2024. This was a cooperative effort with Kevin from the county and the library's technology budget. We also recently received a $1,000 grant from the Wyoming Association of Risk Management to purchase and install new security signage at each of the library buildings. Over the years, the Riverton branch manager has maintained a collaborative relationship with the Riverton Police Department. We have the highest respect and appreciation for RPD. And in our conversations with the previous police chief and past library resource officer Tyler Larson, they indicated that incidents at the library are minuscule compared to what happens in Riverton as a whole. Number 6, a central aspect of approaching safety at all of our libraries is to develop relationships and to communicate with library patrons. Yes, in both Riverton and Lander, we interact with individuals who are homeless and or struggle with substance abuse. First and foremost, we're committed to treating everyone with respect. We strive to maintain a balance between welcoming everyone and enforcing our patron code of conduct. Finally, the Riverton manager, facilities supervisor, and I have regularly discussed safety and security issues at each branch. Since the beginning of November of 2023, and especially after Sherry Haskins retired, I've worked at the Riverton branch. At this time, it was about 70% of my time, but as time went on, it was more like 75 or 80% of my time spent there. My time there affirms to me what I've known all along, that the Riverton branch is a safe place for families. If someone has a specific concern or a specific incident to bring to my attention, then I will investigate. So that was the report from January 2024. Since then, additional actions. In April of 2024, I met with Chief Hurtado, Sergeant Filer, and Community Resource Officer Jeff Manning. And the purpose of that meeting was to discuss, is there anything else that we can do to make sure that the Riverton Branch Library is a safe place to be. And from that, that was the Community Resource Officer Manning's first day on the job. And he makes regular visits to the Riverton Library. He arranged for additional patrols around the library property. And so it's just, there is a continuing relationship with RPD. On this past Monday, I met with the Riverton City Administrator, Kyle Butterfield, and Mayor Tim Hancock. And originally we set up that meeting so I could introduce them to our new Riverton branch manager, Cindy Wright. But while there, we also discussed, safety at the Riverton Library and just getting their feedback on, what is your perception? What are you hearing from the public? And I asked Kyle, so are people coming to you and talking about safety at the library? And he said the only person that he's talked to was actually David, expressing concern about the safety at the Riverton Library. And Mayor Hancock mentioned that Marta had come and made public comment about safety at the library, either at a board meeting or special meeting that the city had. And then I mentioned that yesterday morning I met with Lieutenant Martson of RPD to discuss our safety issues. And all three of these city officials expressed personally their feeling that the Riverton Library is safe. Mayor Hancock and his family go there. Kyle Butterfield and his family go there. And I'm not trying to invalidate people who say that they have felt uncomfortable when they've been at the Riverton Library. But what needs to happen is for them to come back. If they've stayed away for a while, it could be that all these actions that we've taken, they would have a different perception if they come to our building. And that's what we hope so. And anytime we're at the library and a patron expresses a concern about something that they've seen outside or someone sitting outside who looks scary to them, you know, we take that seriously and, you know, if there's something to address, we address it. If we offer to walk them out to their vehicle, that makes them feel comfortable. So we've been very, very proactive about safety, not just at the Riverton Library, but at all of our branches. And you know, I would encourage you, if you have people that you talk to, ask them, when was the last time you were there? Maybe give it make another visit, talk to the library director, talk to the Riverton manager. So, I mean, that's my response to this concern and the idea of creating a working group. You know, the working group is myself and my facility supervisor and my branch managers for each facility.
This is all valuable information that contributes to the conversation. Thank you. In the future, when you have like what you gave to the commissioners, can you email it out to us? So then we could have had it, you know, reviewed it all ahead of time.
Well, and you know, I'm reading from a report from.
I know, I just, if we could have, you know, as we send out stuff, that would be helpful in the essence of time. So.
Well, actually,
just one second,
the only time the last two, really yesterday was when I had time to prepare my response.
Okay, I'm just throwing that out there. Sure. I'll get to you in a second. So in my opinion here, we have two questions to answer as we go into discussion. Is there still a safety issue at the Riverton Library as there was in the past? And if the answer to that question is yes, do we want to form a working group to see if we can address some solutions? Go ahead.
My only comment was, you know, when I looked at the last 2.5 years, almost 3 years, I listed out what the calls were from, which was kind of reassuring. Out of these, you know, the 88 in 2023, 68 in 2024, and we're expecting 56 this year, calls, of those, alarms were like 37 of them. Medical, so like stroke, cardiac arrest, you know, whatever medical stuff was another 31 of them. So you've got already 68 of those that are totally like, we want a response, we want someone coming for those. And then you have 27 that are suspicious. So library staff apparently is kind of worried about somebody they call them out. But these aren't arrests. These are, because those get tagged differently. The ones that are you know, assault or intoxication are tagged differently. And then there's 22 of them that are welfare checks. So that a huge number of these calls are things that are benign and expected. I mean, medical calls, I don't make your face there, but medical calls, I want them called. Or, you know, alarms going off, I want them called. So I think that, to me, that was kind of reassuring, you know, but the main thing to me that was reassuring was going from the 88 to 68 to 56. So I don't know whether we need a working group. I mean, my guess is we don't. Sounds like things are kind of under control.
Karen and then Dave.
I would just like to state that as a member of the public or a board member, there have been a couple of times that I have gone to the Riverton branch where I have felt uncomfortable with a group of men standing outside leaning against, and maybe it was a bicycle rack, I'm not sure, leaning against something as you're trying to walk into the library. I don't know if they were homeless, but they were certainly loitering. I believe that Riverton has been designated as the most dangerous city in the state. I read that in the newspaper. And correct me if I'm wrong, and I could be wrong on this, but I don't remember reading this, but I do remember people telling me that one of those medical calls may have been for a person found in the bathroom with a needle in their arm cast out from drugs. So for one child to walk into a bathroom, or even an adult, to walk into a bathroom and see that, to me, is, you know, we don't want that to happen. We don't want that to happen.
I put all the calls because I didn't want to, you know, skew the alarms. The alarms could be somebody testing the door, or it could just be the wind hitting it and tripping it. And the welfare checks, when I was talking to the clerk, she said that that's usually somebody passed out in the grass. And usually from intoxication, but that could be something else too. The medical could be that, or it could be, somebody having a heart attack. So without, and I only took the high level information because you can't go in and get all the details unless you go through a big, huge paper search. So the nature of the call, and it just gives me the police activity at the library. I don't know that doubling the number gives you 56 this year. I mean, when it gets cold, that's when homeless people come to look for shelter. So I don't know. I don't know what happened. It might be even less than 56. I don't know. But it is an issue. And there's people that have wonderful experiences when they go in, and there's times where we've gone in and we're watching people be arrested. And I just want to find a better way and to see if we can, once we ascertain that there is no problem, or that there is a problem and something we can take care of, then the next step of that is to figure out how to get people to come back to Riverton. And I don't know, I mean, it sounds like Langer's a beautiful library, it really is, and you have a lot of people that really support it, and I'm guessing that there's not a lot of people sleeping on sidewalks there because people are involved, and we don't have that anymore, and I want to get it back. So.
I have a quick question. Mike, are you hearing anything at the commission? And I know at one point you guys were hearing quite a bit about the Riverton Library. Is that something you're still hearing about frequently?
No, we haven't had any comments come in that direction. Commissioner Thomas certainly brings it up and did recently. So it's still a concern from him. I think more continual reporting. I think just what Anita passed on today would be really good information. In fact, I couldn't capture it all, but I'm gonna try and convey some of that back, because there's been a lot of action in that effort. So he's the primary one. I don't know if anybody else has brought that back up, but we have two commissioners that live in Riverton.
I'm just wondering if Lieutenant Martin might be willing to come talk to us, since we're gonna be in Riverton next time, that
That
might
was
be
a
a good start to
suggestion.
launching this discussion further.
I would motion that we table this issue. Anita, would you be willing to see if he could come?
I asked him if he would, and he's willing. So
Okay.
I'll tell him.
So,
I'd like to see him.
Are we all amicable to putting this on the agenda for next time? At wherever point of the agenda, the lieutenant can speak with us. And then making a decision if we want to do this for them.
One last tidbit.
Yes.
Mercy House is not quite there.
As in open?
Yeah, it's not quite ready. It's gonna be like within a month or so. So this is gonna be slow rolled. And so we get all the people, and I would recommend that we also get involved with that, if we can make sure that.
I would throw. Sorry.
No, I'm sorry. Gently. Direct them towards resources over there.
I would throw out the caveat too, I know nothing about it other than what I read in the Riverton Ranger, but the city council is also doing something. Lieutenant, say his name again, Martin. Lieutenant Martin may also know of efforts that are already going on at the city council. So I would specifically ask him, Anita, if he could update us on that little working group as well. Okay, so let me add to the action items, because I have about 5 minutes in mine here. So. Okay. Okay, so are we ready to move on? Materials acquisition policy discussion.
I was just wondering if you could give a recap of what the letter last April commissioners directed the board to do.
Last April? I don't know what I did last night. I'd have to go back and I can't remember what.
Well, I mean, I know.
What's the context?
Well, it's in the context of this discussion, because One of the key points was that you wanted, the commissioners wanted pornography defined more clearly, because it was very wishy-washy. And that you wanted specific language other than just obscene, which is the Miller test, because that can only be decided by the courts, not by librarians. And so
I don't know that that's on you to do that. I think the inspector is wrestling with that too, and I thought that was a really interesting conversation, if anybody caught that from the last meeting that they had interviewed, but yeah, I'd have to go back and look at specifically what we said. I have still, I still maintain, well, I don't go down that hole. It is a concern, and I think defining the term is still important. But I don't know if it's completely on you. So, but-
well, I mean, the letter did direct us to
Okay.
define that
All right.
ourselves, and then also to treat children differently than adults. And so, in looking at how we voted last month on the American Library Association, and then looking at our materials acquisition policy and our collection development policy, I just found that it was really inadequate to, in both defining what is sexually explicit and also, just to have it be more robust in order to ensure that the collection is evaluated to best serve patron interests and wants and community standards. So that I wrote up a new acquisition policy. It's largely based on, originally from the sexually explicit part is based on a section of the law that's been tested numerous times legally and held up. And then Campbell County did adopt something very similar 2 years ago, which has stood. And I just thought that was very neutral language that was very robust about what the development plan should be, what is sexually explicit, how we protect children, and then about leading and how we, continue to evaluate with statistics and other means to ensure that it is the best performing library collection that we have. So.
No, I think it's really important to review, all policies as we go along, and I really appreciate all the work you've done on this. I think going here for right now is premature for two reasons. One is that the legislature is reviewing the library content. And I think we need to wait to see what they do, because that's gonna affect what we do legally. And the second, I think we need to wait till we get the public comment on the whole ALA motion, and get that finalized. And once we have that finalized, then I think it's the time to take a look at our policy on materials acquisition. But I would recommend that we wait for the legislature and we wait for our final decision on the ALA issue.
Being that it's a budget session, I don't know if the legislature will move on. It's my understanding, so a budget session's 40 days. So they'll have 5 days for things. Well, they'll have 10, but everything has to go through the House and Senate, right? So each chamber has 5 days.
But that's a pretty hot topic. I mean,
Yeah,
I think
it
this
is, it is.
I think this-
I just don't know that there's any guarantee that there'll be movement this session. But
No,
I guess
but
all
I
we can
think
do is wait and see.
We can wait and see, but my guess is, that one's pretty up there, it's pretty hot.
I just wanted to reiterate, that joint judiciary, it is their number one topic that they're working on.
So if they bring an opinion, we'll see.
Yeah, and they're talking about language, actually, the current draft that they'll be working, they've removed the Supreme Court language that we call the Miller test, and replacing it with a different definition of sexually explicit material. And whatever they do will directly impact what our policies are, so we should table this. And partly, this is, the last time we had challenges was in December of 2023, and it was 2 people sitting in this group. And we have had 0 requests for reconsideration of library materials since then. That's more than a year and a half of no one going through our process to challenge material. So usually when we're doing a policy change, it arises from some need to clarify or an issue that's arisen to address, and so there is not an immediate need to address this policy right now. I feel strongly that, we revised our materials acquisition policy in 2022, and then our associated materials acquisition procedures at that same time. I could see taking our procedure document and making it part of our policy. But, we include the Wyoming statute regarding the current Wyoming statute regarding obscene material. And so we're already constrained by this. And if there's something that people disagree with, they have a very good process for challenging that. So, I mean, I know this board will want to discuss it, but I think that we table it until after the legislature takes their action.
I see no reason to wait until after the legislature, just takes action because of what you said, Kristen. I don't know if it's actually gonna come up. I've always believed very strongly in the principles of federal, what happens at the state level is what pushes the federal level, and, we then take it to the next step. What happens at the county level pushes the state level, so I don't see why we need to wait for that. I do, think you make a good point, Perry and Anita, about waiting till this next vote and waiting for public comment, however. So I would be willing to table this until we take our second vote on the ALA, because a lot of it concerns the materials acquisition policy, which is entirely language from the ALA.
It's budget session, January or February,
Session starts February.
because we won't be through the ALA deal until December. The way things lie. So do we want to reevaluate in January or February or?
I just wanted to mention that when the challenges were brought up in 2024. The board was directed to read the book in question. And only 2 members did, and the other 3 members gave maybe it was 3 members. The other members gave their vote to the director. And so if the public had to read the book, I think that the board members should have read the book as well. The vote was actually given to the director by 3 board members. If that's gonna be the outcome, then why question anything? Why have the board to do that?
Just to correct you, that was misquoted. And I had read and was spread around the state that I had not read the book, and that was incorrect and was misquoted. And I had written both our board and the county commissioner saying that that was misinformation. But yeah, it was spread around, so I understand why you had that impression, because the Cowboy State Daily reported that I hadn't read it, which was not true. So it was, misinformation, but whatever. But I would say we wait till March. It's not that long, and that gives one look at the ALA thing done, and then we can also see what the legislature does, and then we can have a well-formed document. But I think, we keep our old document, obviously, and then, probably keep, all the work you get done, and we can revisit this all in March, would be my recommendation.
Do we need a motion to?
Table.
No, so we haven't had a motion to.
I didn't motion anything on this.
I would-
So, okay,
Readdress next month.
let's reevaluate January, because ALA will be done December. So we'll reevaluate, do we want to wait until after legislature? We'll just put it as a discussion January. Okay. So this is what I have for action items, if I forgot anything. So computer filtering. November. Working session to research statistics that we would like to
Find a date.
look at, and I will email you guys out for a date for the session. Table the safety working group for November with Anita. Seeing if she can get Lieutenant Markinson. There in November, so that's pending his attendance and materials acquisition January.
Great.
Okay, next meeting is Thursday, November 6th. At 11:30 AM, at 11:30 AM at Riverton Branch. And I motion to adjourn this meeting, it's 2:49 PM. All in favor? Aye.